Chapter 3242. Luo Qingxun stood up and tugged at Xiaomo's arm, then walked past Su Shiwang. The library was still very quiet, but this silence was abruptly broken. "Then what time do you finish class?" Su Shiwang's words really pushed the so-called library plot to the absolute climax and pushed her to the forefront. "Senior, what's the matter?" Luo Qingxun pursed her lips and winked at Su Shiwang seriously. "We still have 4 classes." Lin Nichuan's right hand clutched the corner of her pink dress tightly. She felt like she was being humiliated at this moment. Other than focusing on Luo Qingxun, the surrounding students also observed Lin Nichuan's expression from the perspective of a future doctor. She didn't look too good, but she couldn't say it out loud. After all, this was her first time meeting Su Shiwang. She couldn't leave a bad impression. She still had a chance. She definitely still had a chance. "It's nothing." Su Shiwang's lips curved into an extremely faint smile. He swallowed the words he wanted to say. He actually knew that Luo Qingxun didn't want the school to know about their relationship before they graduated. But since he came to see her, he wanted to tease her. After all, he also wanted to see his little wife. He thought her anxious expression was very cute. "Then, senior, I'll go back to the classroom first." Luo Qingxun waved her hand and pulled Xia Mo's hand to leave. The moment she turned around, Su Shiwang looked at her back and a gentle smile appeared on her face. He didn't know why, but he especially liked this feeling. He always felt that the best decision he made in his life was to marry her without hesitation. Although Su Shiwang only said a few words to Luo Qingxun, everyone felt that Luo Qingxun was lucky. It felt like the light of luck was shining down on her from above. After returning to the classroom, Luo Qingxun immediately took out her phone and sent a message to Su Shiwang. She also severely criticized him. "Didn't we agree to be strangers to each other?" Luo Qingxun, beep beep. The next second, her phone rang with a message. "Because I miss you." Su Shiwang, because he missed her, he couldn't help but want to talk to her. Even though she had repeatedly warned him not to expose himself, he still couldn't help it. Actually, he felt that he really couldn't hold it in any longer. He wanted to look for her at school, pick her up from school, take her out for dinner, and take her to the movies. He wasn't a celebrity, so why did he have to hide when he had a wife? Looking at Su Shiwang's seemingly simple but incomparably warm words, Luo Qingxun felt especially touched. But even though he was touched, he still had to settle some debts. "Humph, do you know that the girl you're helping today is the one who stole my ex?" Carrot, Luo Qingxun. Luo Qingxun added an emoticon because she wanted to look like she was wronged. This time, Su Shiwang did not reply immediately. Instead, after a long time, she replied with a few words. It wasn't the kind of lengthy explanation, but made people have the impulse to go berserk. That seems to be an ally. Su Shiwang. After sending the message, Su Shiwang did a little research on the ex his wife was talking about. They were both medical students and had good grades. But compared to his wife, they were still much worse. As for the girl he saw in the library today, she was the one who stole the so-called music teacher. Chapter 3243. Although Su Shiwang said that he had never interacted with a girl before, if the relationship chart was like this, it could be inferred that the music teacher named Lin Nichuan had deliberately approached him in the library today. Why? Did she think that he was Yin Shu's and would be snatched away? Thinking of this, Su Shiwang couldn't help but feel a little ridiculous. Those who could be snatched away, whether it was easy or difficult, were not worthy of sincere love. Therefore, no matter what happened between them, he still looked down on men like Yin Shu's. Beep, beep, beep. A series of text messages rang, all from his little wife. Yes, yes, yes. You're in an alliance with her. Go and have fun. Luo Qingxun. Go and have an alliance. Your entire community is in an alliance. Luo Qingxun. Yi. Carrot. I'm so angry. Luo Qingxun. Su Shiwang seemed to realize that he had angered his wife and hurriedly typed a reply. Because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have been able to meet you at the best time. Su Shiwang, beep, 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 underscore, 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 epsilon. Luo Qingxun, let's eat pizza tonight. I'll pick you up from your class. Su Shiwang, As soon as this sentence was sent, Luo Qingxun replied very quickly. The former is okay, the latter is rejected. Luo Qingxun. In the end, they agreed to meet at the entrance of the pizza shop. Luo Qingxun still looked very angry, but Su Shiguang had already gently held her hand and led her inside. Perhaps Su Shiguang was the focus of attention too often, so he didn't notice that someone was following him. The person who was following him was none other than Lin Naichuan, who felt humiliated in the library today. Actually, a post about Lin Naichuan deliberately hitting on Su Shiguang had appeared on the school's website later. Although the people in the medical school weren't gossipy, Su Shiguang's popularity was really high. So much so that the doctor candidates who dedicated their lives to the medical profession spent time online discussing it. Some of the more gossipy people on the internet immediately dug up the incident of Lin Naichuan snatching Yin Shi's. The cartoonist even made a big picture of the triangular relationship so that the audience could understand it at a glance. Lin Naichuan naturally saw the drawing as well, and she was instantly infuriated. She originally wanted to have another chance encounter with Su Shiguang, but she didn't expect to meet Luo Qingxun. What surprised her even more was that Su Shiguang very naturally held her hand and walked towards the pizza restaurant. Why? Why did they go to dinner together? Why would Su Shiguang hold her hand? What was their relationship? Could it be? A dark glint appeared in Lin Naichuan's eyes. Right now, the keyboard warriors on the school's internet were already scolding her badly. Not only did they say that she had snatched Yin Shi's, but they also said that she had seduced the #1 male god in the medical field. Please. Now it seemed that the person who seduced the #1 male god in the medical field wasn't her at all, but Luo Qingxun. She would never take the blame for her. Okay? As Lin Naichuan thought about it, she took out her phone from her pocket and took a picture of Luo Qingxun and Su Shiguang eating together. Only with the picture could the truth be revealed. Although she didn't know what method Luo Qingxun had used to make Su Shiguang eat with her, it didn't mean that she couldn't make it up. After taking the picture, she immediately went on the school's website and created a new ID. It was called, I Am a Whistleblower. This book came from Chapter 3244. After sorting out the photos, she immediately took a taxi home and turned on her computer to edit the post. The real vixen, Luo Qingxun, used unknown means to seduce senior Su Shiguang. The title was very eye-catching. Below it was a long speculation and the photo she had taken of Luo Qingxun and Su Shiguang eating pizza together. In less than 5 minutes, there were a lot of comments on the school's website. A kitten, oh my god. It's really Senior Su. He actually ate with a girl. Kite Yao, I'm so jealous. So it's the second genius in our school. Luo Qingxun? I'm a whistleblower. Is she a genius? I only know that she's good at seducing men. You all think that Lin Naichuan stole Yin Shi's away. Actually, before Luo Qingxun appeared, Lin Naichuan was Yin Shi's girlfriend. During this time, Lin Naichuan even used her newly registered account to distort the truth and slander Luo Qingxun. Kite Yao, and I'm a whistleblower. Then I want to know why Yin Shi's and Luo Qingxun got together later on. I'm a whistleblower because Luo Qingxun used despicable means to steal him away. There were many comments below the post. Some were surprised, some were jealous, and some were even gossiping about Luo Qingxun. However, there were still some very rational people who expressed their opinions. That's a dream. Here are my opinions. 1. As far as I know, Lin Naichuan broke up with Yin Shi's because she cheated on him. Yin Shi's only met Luo Qingxun after he entered medical school. 2. Luo Qingxun and Su Shiguang are probably just seniors and juniors having a meal together. Why are you all so worried? This ID, called It's a Dream, also received a lot of likes. After all, the photo below was only of them eating pizza together. There was no other action. 15 minutes later, Luo Qingxun received a call from Xia Mo. What's wrong, Xia Mo? Quick, quick, quick. Let's go to the school forum. Luo Qingxun frowned slightly and hung up the phone. She rarely saw Xia Mo so anxious, so this matter must be very urgent. What's wrong? Su Shiguang cut the pizza and put it on her plate. Why do you look so angry? How can I not be angry? Luo Qingxun put the phone in front of him and said, "Look, is this your so-called alliance?" Su Shiguang's brows moved slightly as he focused on reading the post. Then, a glimmer of light flashed across his deep brows. "Don't get angry because of such people." Su Shiguang gently raised her right hand and patted her head with her warm palm. "You have me. That's right." Luo Qingshun crossed her arms and pretended to be angry. "It's because of Senior Su that I'm accused of seducing others." Sigh, Qingshun can feel wrong too. Su Shiguang's brows moved slightly. "Tomorrow, I'll go to the medical school with a few professors to study the latest vaccination topic. I'll explain it then." He would definitely protect his wife and not let anyone bully her under any circumstances. "Don't you?" Luo Qingshun pursed her lips and said, "Rumors stop with the wise. I think that other than some people who don't fit in, everyone in our school is talented and intelligent. As long as we don't respond, there will be no public opinion soon." This was the difference between the medical school and ordinary schools. Everyone was busy researching topics and improving themselves. Therefore, gossip was nothing more than idle chatter after meals. Chapter 32:45. However, what Luo Qingshun didn't expect was that Lin Nichuan didn't intend to give up on Su Shiguang. In her opinion, if she could use her means to make Yinshu choose her in the end, she could also make Su Shiguang choose her in the end. Since Luo Qingshun had already lost to her once, she would definitely lose to her a second time. Due to the post, Luo Qingshun received a lot of attention when she came to school the next day. However, no one said anything. After all, anyone could be the Cinderella of their male idol. Besides, Luo Qingshun also entered medical school with good grades. She wasn't a Cinderella. As soon as they entered the classroom, Xia Mo pulled her aside and snickered. "Don't you feel like you've received a lot of attention today?" Luo Qingshun rolled her eyes and smiled. "I don't think you're suitable to be a doctor." "Huh? Why? Have you ever seen a doctor so gossipy?" "Qingshun, you're so fierce." Xia Mo pretended to look aggrieved. "You weren't so fierce in the past." Sure enough." "Sure enough what?" The next second, Xia Mo leaned close to her ear and whispered, "Sure enough, married women are more hot-tempered than young girls." Xia Mo, Luo Qingshun gritted her teeth in anger, but Xia Mo had already run away with a smile on her face. She really had made a bad friend. -1, 30 p.m. Su Shiguang and a few professors came to school to do research. This wasn't a lecture, but a private research project. There was some privacy. Lin Nichuan used her usual method. She soaked herself in a cold bath the night before and successfully got a fever. It was cold today, and she wore very little. She sat on a small field below the laboratory. It just so happened that this period was Luo Qingshun's class's physical education class. Yinshu saw Lin Nichuan at first glance and frowned. After hesitating for a long time, he still walked over to ask her, "Are you sick? You don't look so good." Lin Nichuan wanted to ask him to leave immediately, but she rolled her eyes and seemed to have thought of another way. "Why are you concerned about me? The things that have been stolen are not precious." She sniffed and roared, "I don't need your concern. You can live with that vixen." She deliberately mentioned Luo Qingshun so that everyone, including Su Shiguang, would know about the relationship between Yin Shu's and Luo Qingshun. In any case, neither side had any evidence. Perhaps even she herself could not explain the relationship between the three of them, let alone others. Because Lin Nichuan's voice was very loud, Xia Mo immediately heard it and walked over angrily. This was also a trick that Lin Nichuan had suddenly thought of. Since Luo Qingshun had left an impression on Su Shiguang before her, then the best solution was to make this impression worse. Yin Shuz was stunned. Although they were on the field, everyone's gaze still landed on him. At this moment, Xia Mo rushed to Lin Nichuan's side and said, "What are you talking about? Don't talk nonsense, okay? Everyone knows who the real vixen is, okay?" "What? Did I say something wrong?" Lin Nichuan sneered and said, "Xia Mo, how can a third-rate hooligan like you, who knows how to find people to bet on me, study medicine? You still don't want to admit what you did?" "Damn it, Lin Nichuan, say that again if you dare." Perhaps it was because Lin Nichuan's sarcasm reminded her of the Cold War between her and Luo Qingxin. Hence, the anger in her heart rose rapidly, and she fell into Lin Nichuan's trap. Chapter 32:46. Rome wasn't built in a day. Lin Nichuan and Xia Mo's feud had already reached a critical point. As long as the fuse was lit, it would immediately explode and go out of control. It was precisely because Xia Mo had reached this critical point that she couldn't tolerate Lin Nichuan. In the next second, Xia Mo suddenly rushed to Lin Nichuan's side and raised her hand, wanting to slap her. Just as Lin Nichuan was about to receive the slap, she saw people walking down from the research building. It was Su Shiguang and the rest. At this moment, Lin Nichuan stopped moving and took Xia Mo's slap. Pa! A resounding slap suddenly rang out, and everyone was stunned. Even Xia Mo herself was stunned. Her brows trembled slightly as she looked at Luo Qingxin in a panic. Luo Qingxin only frowned slightly. The moment she saw Su Shiguang walk down, she knew why Lin Nichuan suddenly became so weak. You're such a good student. You actually hate your teacher? Lin Nichuan covered her face and sneered. Everyone saw it now. Are you still going to quibble? Cough, cough, quibble. Lin Nichuan's face was very pale as she slumped against the chair. Yin Shiz hurriedly went forward to help her up, but she pushed him away. Go away. You've already made your choice. Why are you still putting on an act? When she said this, tears streamed down her face. At this moment, Su Shiguang was already walking towards them. The atmosphere was unusually tense and awkward. Luo Qingxin also felt that Xia Mo was too impulsive. After all, there were so many people watching now. Lin Nichuan was just acting like the weak party. It was easy for people to have preconceived notions. Nichuan, Xia Mo didn't do it on purpose. She just... Yin Shiz wanted to help Xia Mo explain, but he didn't know how he should help her. Once upon a time, he didn't hesitate to stand against Xia Mo for Lin Nichuan. At that time, he seemed to have said some unpleasant things. Even his brother. That's right, that's right. Since you've chosen her, you naturally have to speak up for her good friend. Lin Nichuan stood up shakily, dragging her feet as she walked towards Su Shiguang. Since both of you are true love, why did you harm me back then? Can't you just stay in love for the rest of your life? Although she could feel that her body was a little weak, she still roared out those words. She wanted Su Shiguang to hear that Luo Qingxin wasn't a good person at all. Even if they went to eat together, even if they had sprouted the bud of love, as long as this ambiguity was nipped in the cradle, then everything was still not too late. Yin Shiz didn't retort. He merely glanced sideways at Luo Qingxin silently. Her gaze was very indifferent. She wasn't looking at her, but at a direction not far away. It should be in Su Shiguang's direction. Why? Why do I have a feeling of unwillingness in my heart? Why was it that everyone who had been with him in the past was related to Su Shiguang? If it was Lin Nichuan, perhaps he could understand. After all, she was someone who liked the new and hated the old. But Luo Qingxin, the girl who seemed to shine in his life. Why was it that in her eyes, he could only see Su Shiguang's figure? This book came from Chapter 32:47. Lin Nichuan kept walking. When she reached Su Shiguang, she felt dizzy and fainted in his arms. Su Shiguang was stunned. He wanted to walk towards his wife, but Lin Nichuan's sudden fainting caught him off guard. However, after his experience in the library, he already had a plan this time. Yin Shiz was stunned. He didn't expect Su Shiguang to call his name. Although he was jealous of this young man, he still walked over and asked, "Is something the matter, Senior Su?" Your girlfriend fainted. Pick her up." Su Shiguang quickly handed Lin Nichuan over to Yin Shiz. He didn't give him any time to react. Or more accurately, he didn't give Lin Nichuan any time to react. Although Lin Nichuan had a high fever and was very weak, she didn't really faint. She just wanted to interact with Su Shiguang, so she fainted on purpose. However, she didn't expect Su Shiguang to hand her over to Yin Shiz. This was really different from what she had imagined. "Senior," Yin Shiz frowned slightly and looked away. "She should be sick. Why don't I take a look at her? We're all medical students. You have to take care of your own girlfriend." Su Shiguang raised his eyebrows and said, I know a little about your relationship. Qing Chun told me before. She had to admit that Su Shiguang's sudden call of her name made her feel a chill down her spine. He didn't have to mention her, but why did he have to? The next second, Lin Nichun shook her head and opened her eyes. She asked in a daze, What's wrong with me? What happened? When Su Shiguang handed her over to Yin Shi's, she was still hesitating whether to wake up. After all, she just fainted. If she suddenly woke up, it would seem too fake. However, when she heard Luo Qingchen mention her from Su Shiguang, she couldn't help but wake up. Luo Qingchen was indeed not someone to be trifled with. She had already badmouthed her in front of Su Shiguang and didn't give her a chance to compete. This move was really impressive. After all, everyone in school knew about her relationship with Yin Shi's. In that case, wouldn't Su Shiguang's impression of her be? It was no wonder that he had politely supported her the last time, but this time he had directly pushed her to Yin Shi's. I think you should take her to the infirmary. Su Shiguang looked at Yin Shi's and said, She doesn't look too good. I think she would rather you take her there. Seeing that Lin Nichuan had left his embrace, Yin Shi suddenly nodded and said, After all, we have already broken up. Hiss! The students on the field all sucked in a breath of cold air. They vaguely remembered that the last time Su Shiguang came to the school for a lecture, the two of them were still lovey-dovey. Why did they suddenly break up? Was it really because of Luo Qingchen? Although everyone had doubts in their hearts, they would not discuss it in person. The more highly educated a person was, the less likely they were to whisper at this time. Remaining silent while watching was a reflection of their quality. Yes, we broke up. Lin Nichuan widened her eyes and said, Some people don't need to talk behind their backs. It's disgusting. Lin Nichuan didn't say that it was because of Luo Qingchen, but everyone was smart and could sense the coldness in her words. This book came from Chapter 3248. You're really the one complaining first. Xiaomo crossed his arms and snorted. You're the one who posted on the forum, and you still have the cheek to criticize others. Whatever you say, you were the one who hit me just now. Lin Nichun looked away and said, What right does a girl who uses violence to solve problems have to call others evil? You. Xiaomo's face was red with anger, but he didn't know what to say. He had to admit that Lin Nichuan's ability to insult people was quite impressive. Every word was a gem. She could make the opponent speechless without using any vulgarities. Actually, the moment Xiaomo hit her, she already had the upper hand in public opinion. Lin Nichuan couldn't be bothered with him. Instead, she looked at Su Shiguang and said, Senior, I'm sorry, cough cough, to have caused you trouble. As she spoke, she didn't forget to cough to make herself look more delicate. Because she always believed that men would take pity on weak women. Because she used the same method to make Yan Shi's abandon Luo Qingchen and come to her side. But what happened next was something she didn't expect at all. It's nothing. I was just passing by. Su Shiguang just shook her head lightly and brushed past her. She walked in the direction of Luo Qingchen. Then, she took out a cake coupon from her pocket and said, The coupon you asked me to buy the other day only had chocolate flavor. What if it didn't have strawberry flavor? At this moment, Luo Qingchen and Xiaomo both looked at Su Shiguang in disbelief. Xiaomo's eyes were filled with surprise and joy, while Luo Qingchen's eyes were completely shocked. Why did she have a bad premonition in her heart? It was as if Su Shiguang already had a plan that she couldn't tell her. Of course. Cake coupon. Luo Qingchen's lips twitched. She secretly winked and smiled. Senior, are you going to buy a cake? I have a good shop to recommend. The reason for the cake coupon was because it was her mother's birthday the day after tomorrow. Both sides were preparing to hold a small birthday party, so the issue of the cake flavor was brought up a few days ago. Luo Qingchen liked strawberry-flavored cakes, so Su Shiguang went to buy a coupon. However, she didn't expect that there would be no strawberry-flavored cakes recently, only chocolate-flavored ones. Actually, this was a very normal thing. But what if Su Shiguang said it in front of everyone? Didn't you say you like strawberry cakes? Hiss! At this moment, even Luo Qingchen could hear the gasps around her. Su Shiguang had a calm look. He knew that Luo Qingchun was winking at him, but he acted like he didn't see anything. Did I say that? Yes. Su Shiwang nodded and said, didn't you ask me to buy my mother's birthday cake? You even said that your husband wants strawberry flavor? At this moment, Luo Qingchun felt like she was petrified. This feeling was even stronger than when she used time freeze. Xiaomo was so shocked that her eyeballs almost fell out. Although she knew that Luo Qingchun and Su Shiwang had already registered their marriage, due to Su Shiwang's popularity, no one else knew about this except for them. But at this moment, in front of so many people, Su Shiwang said it. Yes, yes, yes. What was she trying to do? This book came from. Chapter 3249. The entire field was silent for nearly 10 seconds. Then, the professor who came down with Su Shiwang said, this must be Madam. The colleagues at the hospital naturally knew that Su Shiwang was married. However, they didn't know who the bride was because the wedding hadn't been held yet. Judging from Su Shiwang's tone, it should be the girl named Luo Qingchun standing next to him. Yes, she's very naughty. Su Shiwang raised his right hand and patted her head. She doesn't let me come to school to look for her. No wonder. Xiao Lu smiled. This time, Professor Su personally went to study the vaccine project. It turns out that he has an ulterior motive. The next second, a girl in the crowd finally mustered up the courage to ask, so, you mean that Senior Su is already married? This girl's question was really a wake-up call. Lin Nichuan and Yin Shi snapped out of their daze almost at the same time. They stared at Luo Qingchun and Su Shiwang with wide eyes. The warm sunlight shone on their cheeks, and the breeze blew. At this moment, they actually felt that they were a perfect match. Yes, I never thought about marriage before, but when I met the right person, marriage became inevitable. Su Shiwang smiled and said, you'll understand when you grow up. Before coming to school, Su Shiwang had already thought about how to publicize his relationship with Luo Qingchun. He didn't expect Lin Nichuan to give him such a good opportunity. There were two main reasons why he didn't ask for Luo Qingchun's permission to publicize their relationship. First, he didn't want his wife to think too much. In this life, he wouldn't be snatched away by anyone, even if she didn't want him anymore. Second, because of Yin Shi's existence, he felt a sense of crisis. In addition, Xiaomo often said that she received love letters in school, so he felt quite unsafe. Because he had many surgeries in the hospital, and he couldn't always come to school to supervise, publicizing their relationship was the best way to solve the problem. Or it could be said that it was the only way. The next second, the entire field was in an uproar. Even the medical students who didn't participate in the gossip were excited at this moment. Most of the girls were saying, wow, my head hurts, my head hurts. What exactly did I experience in these 10 minutes? Why do I suddenly feel like I've fallen out of love? F***CK. No wonder Senior Su chose to sit next to Luo Qingchun that day in the library. It turns out that she's already married. Most of what the boys said was, as expected, excellent doctors can always find excellent doctors to be their lifelong partners. TSK. They are all geniuses. The genes of their future children will definitely be very powerful. I didn't expect Luo Qingchun to be married. I still want to pursue her. Xiaomo was right. Luo Qingchun's popularity at school wasn't low. Although she couldn't be compared to Su Shiwang, there were still many people who liked her. However, although the field was noisy, the two people who were the most disappointed were Lin Nichuan and Yin Shi. Compared to Lin Nichuan, Yin Shi was even more shocked. In his eyes, how could Luo Qingchun get married? Never in his wildest dreams would he have thought that the girl who had hugged him so tightly half a year ago would become someone else's wife half a year later. Why? What should he do? What could he do? Was it too late to regret now? This book came from. Chapter 3250. Just like that, Su Shiwang announced her relationship with Luo Qingchun. Most people were disappointed that the Prince Charming in the school had become a married man. However, this was a private matter, after all. Although they were disappointed, they couldn't say anything. However, the post on the forum about Luo Qingchun seducing Su Shiwang was slapped in the face. They were husband and wife under the protection of a law. Okay? Although the person who posted the post wasn't 100% sure, the spearhead was completely pointed at Lin Nichuan. In order to prevent the students from being affected, the school decided not to remove Lin Nichuan's status as a music teacher in the school for the time being. All music classes would be replaced with physical education classes for the time being. Xia Mo held a badminton racket and said, "I'm so happy that I don't have to attend those weird music classes anymore." Duh. Luo Qingxun opened a drink and smiled. "I think it's not that you don't want to attend music classes, but that you don't want to attend Lin Nichuan's music classes." "Humph. What's the point of attending her classes?" Xiaomo stuck out her tongue and said, "In the past, she only knew how to play some love songs and then purposely flirt with Yin Shi's. It's as if she's proud to have Yin Shi's." Xia Mo hated Lin Nichuan, so she sometimes went overboard with her actions. However, she never regretted her actions. After all, she used different methods to deal with different people. Lin Nichuan wasn't a good person to begin with. She reaped what she sowed. Luo Qingxun narrowed her eyes slightly, and coldness flashed across her eyes. Originally, she wanted to say goodbye to her past after coming to this world. If Lin Nichuan and Yin Shi had stayed together and didn't cause trouble, she didn't want to have anything to do with them, let alone deal with them. However, Lin Nichuan was too greedy. Also, the methods she used really made it difficult for people to not deal with her. However, thinking about it carefully, it didn't seem like she was the one dealing with Lin Nichuan. Instead, it was Su Shiguang who used another method to make Lin Nichuan speechless. This kind of woman might always be like this. Those who couldn't get were always in turmoil, while those who were loved were fearless. Before she got Yin Shi's back, she carefully tried to please him. After obtaining it, his true nature was exposed, and he had a new target. To be honest, in this world, Luo Qingxun hated this kind of person the most, because they were incomparably greedy, because they could never be satisfied. "That's right," Xia Mo smirked. "Serves you right. That Yin Shi's also deserved it. He didn't believe us no matter what. Now he's asking Lin Hui to go to the bar to drink." Thinking of this, Xia Mo felt angry. She hadn't seen Lin Hui for many days. Yin Shi had dragged him to drink. Luo Qingxun raised her eyebrows and said, "So he can't bear to part with Lin Nichuan?" "I don't think so." Xiaomo shrugged and said, "From Lin Hui's tone, I think he can't bear to part with you." "Can't bear to part with me?" Luo Qingxun sneered. "I really can't bear his reluctance." Although Luo Qingxun and Xia Mo thought it was funny, Yin Shi's really looked hurt. Even Lin Hui's heart softened. At the bar, neon wine. The air was filled with the smell of all kinds of alcohol. This book came from the Chapter 32:51. This was already Yin Shi's third day here. He drank one glass of wine after another, and he never stopped at all. Shiz stopped drinking. Lin Hui initially said that he was willing to accompany his brother until they were drunk. However, seeing that Yin Shi's had no intention of stopping, he started to persuade him. "Do you know how much I love her?" Yin Shi's eyes were red. He pulled Lin Hui's collar drunkenly and said, "You don't know. How can you understand? But you gave up on her." Lin Hui sighed deeply and said, "You can't blame her for this." Qingxun was upset to know. Yin Shi's roared. "She's never been sad. She's never been sad. If she was really upset, how could she suddenly treat him so coldly? Come to think of it, her husband was Su Shiguang, that genius in the medical field, that man who was lonely and defeated in his field. He really had good taste. Perhaps it was because he had such good taste, which made Yin Shi feel especially upset, because that girl originally belonged to him, but he missed out on her. Shiz, although I really want to stand on your side and comfort you, I can't do that." Lin Hui looked at him seriously and said, "I know you're suffering, but you chose this path yourself. You shouldn't blame anyone. I chose. If Xia Mo didn't block people in the alley, would I have made such a choice?" Yin Shi cried. It was said that men didn't cry easily, but he was really crying. Lin Hui closed his eyes and used his rationality to overcome his emotions. He slowly said, "When you were with Lin Nichuan, you never thought about how Qingxun felt. Now that you see her with someone else, you feel that she's wrong. You even think that she's selfish. Shuz, I really don't know you anymore. Actually, when Yin Shuz chose Lin Nitron and bullied Xiao Mo, he already said that they were no longer brothers. However, because they were once brothers, he still chose to accompany him when he was upset. However, this didn't mean that he would stand on his side and agree with him. Yin Shuz didn't say anything else. He closed his eyes and finished the red wine in his hand. Then, he said something from the bottom of his heart in a deep tone. Actually, I do regret it, but I know it's too late for regrets now. She was already married to an outstanding man. When they went in and out together, they were such a perfect match that others envied them. Because he no longer had a chance, the pain in his heart numbed all his nerves and even made him breathless. Brother, after a long time, Lin Hui sighed deeply and said, "Love is a matter of time." He didn't know if this sentence could comfort Yin Shuz, but Yin Shuz indeed didn't go to the bar the next day. After 3 days of drinking in the bar, he decided to go back to school. One evening after school, he shouted Luo Qingchun's name on a tree-lined path. Luo Qingchun, classmate. He even added the word classmate. Perhaps it was because of the addition of these two words that Luo Qingchun turned around this time. It was the season when the plum blossoms bloomed. The red plum blossoms fell on the snow and looked especially beautiful. She narrowed her eyes slightly and asked, "Is something the matter?" This book came from Chapter 3252. Sorry to disturb you. Yin Shuz walked in front of her and revealed a sunny smile. I owe you an apology. Also, congratulations on finding your own happiness. Actually, Luo Qingchun felt inexplicably awkward. But as the saying goes, one doesn't hit a smiling person. Even if she really wanted to scold him deep down, she still revealed an elegant smile and said, "Thank you. Lin Hui is right. Time makes me forget many things." Yin Shuz looked at her and said, "Can we still be classmates in the future? I'm classmates with everyone." Luo Qingchun smiled faintly. Her gaze was still distant as she said, "You don't have to deliberately say anything. It will be very strange. My husband is waiting for me. I'll leave first." She waved her hand and didn't say anything else. A polite response was her bottom line towards Yin Shuz. As for anything else, she really didn't want to say anything else. Although the original owner's memory was already very faint, the scene of him choosing Lin Nitron was still clearly engraved in her mind. Although she wasn't the one who experienced it, she could empathize with that kind of sadness. Yin Shuz seemed to be embarrassed when he heard this. Then, he waved his hand and smiled. "Okay, I won't disturb you." Actually, there was a sentence in his heart that he didn't say out loud. It was the sentence after Lin Hui is right. "Time makes me forget many things. Except that I love you," he said softly. In this snowy field full of plum blossoms, he said a vow that only he could hear. It was a pity that the person who could give him a response in the past already belonged to someone else. At the school gate, Luo Qingchun sat in Su Shiwang's car. She suddenly realized that he had changed his car. It was a Volkswagen SUV. It wasn't a very expensive car, but it was very wide and comfortable to sit in. "You actually changed your car?" Luo Qingchun blinked mischievously and said, "Did the great doctor become rich?" Before answering this question, I want to ask a question first. Su Shiwang's gaze darkened. At this moment, he looked like a little old man. Luo Qingchun was a little stunned. She blinked and asked, "What's the problem?" Su Shiwang stopped the car by the roadside and closed the windows on both sides. He looked at her and said, "I heard that someone tried to hit on you just now." "Damn!" Luo Qingchun exclaimed in her heart. Su Shiwang's network of spies was so wide now. She had only said a few words to Yin Shuz, and in less than a minute, the news had reached the ears of his little fangirl. Humph! Luo Qingchun preemptively snorted and said, "So the one who spread the news was university head Su's little fangirl?" Although Su Shiwang's marriage had caused an uproar in the school, many people expressed that they had to stop being her fans. But every time he came to school, there would still be a lot of people watching and looking at Luo Qingchun with envy. I don't know if I'm a fan or not. The next second, Su Shiwang suddenly unbuckled her seatbelt and abruptly moved closer to him. But it's definitely not a girl. What? Luo Qingchun looked at Su Shiwang in surprise and said, You mean it's a guy? Yes. Su Shirwang touched her hair lovingly with his right hand and pulled her to his side. He kissed her forehead and said, "Be honest and be lenient. Did he pester you again?" Actually, Luo Qingshun rarely saw Su Shirwang jealous. After Yin Shi's appeared, he seemed to have become petty. This book came from Chapter 3253. He always felt that his wife would be snatched away from him from time to time, and he always felt uneasy. Hence, he had reduced the number of surgeries in the past few days and specially took time out to pick up his wife. Ahem. Luo Qingshun pursed her lips and said, "Yes. Although I'm not as popular as Senior Su, there are still people who like me." Little did she know that before she could finish bragging, Su Shirwang kissed her lips without warning. Luo Qingshun was a little nervous. She always thought that Su Shirwang was a very elegant person. Although she had been kissed by him before, she felt that he was especially domineering today. Even if she wanted to end the kiss, he went even deeper. He tossed and turned, making her a little confused. In the end, when she had no strength to resist, he let her go and said, "You're mine." The person he loved didn't like others. It was enough for him to like her. "I know." Luo Qingshun's eyebrows trembled slightly. She touched her burning ears and said, "He didn't say anything to me. He probably said something regretful." "It's too late." Su Shirwang narrowed his eyes. There was a faint light in his eyes as he said, "I suddenly know why I kept repeating that dream when I came back from Africa." "Ah, what dream?" "Repeating a dream of marrying you home." "What?" Luo Qingshun snorted a little proudly and said, "So, Senior Su married me because of a dream. I thought it was because you like me." "Of course I don't like you." "What?" "Liking is a feeling." Su Shirwang put on his seatbelt again and opened the windows on both sides. He stepped on the accelerator and said, "But love is a kind of responsibility. Wife, I like you because I have to be responsible for you." For some reason, when Su Shirwang said those words of love, he felt that his EQ had dropped by half. They weren't elegant words of love at all. They sounded more like vulgar words of love. Everything seemed to be moving in the direction she imagined, but no one's life was smooth sailing. There were always some accidents, or some man-made accidents. After Lin Nichuan was indirectly expelled from school, she stayed at home for a week. She had called Yinshi's a few times, but he didn't answer her calls. Whether it was early in the morning or late at night, or perhaps it was after class, Yinshi's didn't answer any of her calls. She didn't know if he really didn't hear her, or if he didn't want to answer her call at all. In short, Lin Nichuan, who had stayed at home for a week, did nothing but eat lunch. The already messy house became even more messy. Even the branded bags looked like second-hand goods from the roadside. On the school's forum, someone had specially created another thread to talk about her. Almost all the comments below were attacking her. She kept opening alternate accounts to refute, but someone directly dug out her ID and kept mocking her through the screen. Perhaps it was because she had tasted the feeling of being condemned by the public, and coupled with her closed-off state, her heart was completely twisted. In the end, she made a terrifying decision, but this decision actually made her feel excited. She had used a limited edition Dior lipstick to write the word death on the large vanity mirror. Next to it was a photo of the two of them. Since she had nothing left, she had nothing to be afraid of. She wouldn't let any of those who bullied and harmed her off. This book came from Chapter 3254. On Friday afternoon, white snow fell from the sky. The red plum blossoms and snow scenery were beautiful beyond compare. Xiaomo put on her hood and looked at Luo Qingshun. "Without Lin Nichuan in school, I feel like I can breathe easily. Just how much do you hate her?" Luo Qingshun's brows twitched as she chuckled. "Those who don't know might think that she stole your boyfriend. My boyfriend isn't handsome enough. She doesn't care." Xiaomo blurted out naturally. However, the moment she said it, she realized that she had said something wrong. "Boyfriend?" Luo Qingshun emphasized the first word and looked at Xiaomo with a probing gaze. "You mean to say that after waiting for so many years, Lin Hui has finally let you blossom?" "Who's Lin Hui?" As though her little secret had been exposed, Xiaomo blushed. I just wanted to give him a chance to prove himself. Are you sure? Luo Qingchun raised her brows. The Xiaomo, I know, isn't someone who would give others a chance so easily. Chance must be given. Xiaomo looked away with an unconcealable smile. You have to be fair. Everyone is equal when it comes to chance. But I've never seen you give others a chance. Please. Xiaomo placed her hands on her hips. I'm not you. With so many people chasing after you, I can't give him a chance even if I wanted to. You're just quibbling. Luo Qingchun rested her chin on her right hand. Speak. What did you guys get together? Just a few days ago. Xiaomo bit her lips. Even though she said it in a normal tone, her face was red. Anyway, he gave me a bouquet of flowers and we got together. Luo Qingchun looked at Xiaomo's embarrassed face and did not tease her anymore. She looked up gently. I'll wait for her to get off work tonight. What about you? Do you have any activities? I'm going to get a car. Xiaomo smiled. Lin Hui said that he saw how hard it was for me to go to school and bought me a car. I heard that he saved up for 3 years. 3 years. Luo Qingchun was stunned for a moment, but she suddenly remembered that Lin Hui was still a student. It was not easy for a student to save enough money to buy a car in 3 years. I don't ask for much. I'm already satisfied. Xiaomo smiled. As long as he treats me well, that's enough. Seeing Xiaomo smile, Luo Qingchun also felt very happy. They separated at the school gate. Luo Qingchun walked towards the hospital while Xiaomo went to pick up the car. During dinner, she even sent her a photo of her and Lin Hui having dinner together. Lin Hui's face was brimming with happiness. Luo Qingchun, on the other hand, was very miserable. She waited for Su Shiwang's doctor's office for 3 whole hours. The reason was simple. Professor Su had a series of surgeries to perform, and it was a series of surgeries with a beautiful doctor from the cardiopulmonary department. No wonder it was 3 hours later than expected. Even heroes have a weakness for beauties. At 10 o'clock at night, Su Shiwang's beautiful doctor finally finished her consecutive surgeries. The moment the office door opened, Su Shiwang walked in with a beautiful doctor, talking and laughing. Luo Qingchun sat on Su Shiwang's office chair. She rested her chin on her hand and looked at him with narrowed eyes. This is... The beautiful doctor immediately withdrew her smile and asked politely, Is Professor Su your friend? That's right. You wish we were friends. What a pity, no, I'm his wife. Luo Qingchun interrupted Su Shiwang and explained in front of him. End of chapter. Chapter 3255. While she was explaining, she also observed the beautiful doctor's expression. Sure enough, it changed slightly. Then she said in a seemingly emotional tone, I didn't expect Professor Su to be married at such a young age. She had just returned from studying in a foreign hospital. She was of mixed Russian descent. When she blinked her big eyes, she was particularly feminine. Yes. Su Shiwang walked to her side and took her hand. Wives are popular. If you don't get married, you'll be easily snatched away by others. Su Shiwang's palm was very warm. When she held her tightly, she felt a full sense of security. Luo Qingchun smiled slightly and said, After graduation, I should also come to this hospital for an internship. At that time, I will ask you to give me more advice. Since her husband had praised her so much, she also had to show a well-behaved and sensible appearance. Okay. The beautiful doctor's smile also became more natural. She nodded and said, But I specialize in cardiopulmonary medicine. You should, yes. Ha! Luo Qingchun chuckled and said, Neurosurgery. Sure enough. Juning, you guessed wrong about this. Su Shiwang explained. Before I met her, her total score in neurosurgery in medical school had already surpassed mine. Really? Fang Juning asked incredulously. Is she that good? Actually, she's not that good. Luo Qingchun shook her head modestly and said, She is just a little talented in medicine. Ha! Professor Su, your wife is so cute. Fang Juning glanced at her watch and said, It's late. Sorry to disturb you. I am on duty tonight. If I remember correctly, you should be on the morning shift. In fact, she had heard about Su Shiwang before she returned to China. This time, when she came back, she did pay attention to him. But since he was already married, she was not the kind of person who would pester him. A little disappointment, but it did not prevent them from becoming friends. Besides, according to Su Shirwang, his wife was also a medical genius. She liked to be friends with medical geniuses. Yes, I was going to have dinner tonight. I didn't expect the patient's problem to be so complicated. Su Shirwang picked up the coat on the chair and said, "Then I'll leave first. The books you said you wanted to borrow are all on the bookshelf. Just close the door when you leave." Fang Juning froze for a moment. She didn't understand why Su Shirwang would specifically mention this matter, but in the next second, she completely understood. He repeated it not because he wanted to remind her, but because he wanted to explain it to his wife. Her colleagues in the hospital all said that Su Shirwang was a very disciplined person. Although she treated people politely on the surface, she was cold and arrogant on the inside. He would never go out of his way to explain anything, and he would only state his point of view once, because he was a lonely person who sought defeat in his own field. But now, it seemed that he was very different from the rumors, at least in front of his wife. Even if he had to repeat it or even explain it superfluously, he would still patiently explain it to her. Perhaps this was the so-called care. Because he cared about someone, even if he was making unnecessary explanations, he still felt very happy. "Okay, thank you. Then, we'll make a move first." Su Shirwang held her hand and walked towards the door. She seemed to hear his gentle voice asking, "What do you want to eat? Didn't you say you wanted to eat barbecue last night?" End of chapter. Chapter 3256. But in the next second, Su Shirwang and Fang Juning's phones rang at the same time. Just as he was about to pick it up, Fang Juning ran out of the office and said, "There was a major explosion at the chemical plant at the intersection of Sana Road and Dongshan Road, with the nearest hospital." "Got it." Su Shirwang picked up the phone first and then looked at Luo Qingchen. "Sorry, wife. I may not be able to accompany you to dinner tonight." Luo Qingchen showed a very disappointed expression at first, then smiled gently. "Go do your work. I'll ask Xiamo to pick me up and ask her to take me to dinner." "She has a car?" "Yes." Luo Qingchen's eyebrows moved slightly. "Lin Hui bought it for her. It seems that they're together." Su Shirwang touched her head gently. "You're a big matchmaker. It's natural for them to invite you to dinner. Then you can do it." Luo Qingchen's lips curled as she said, "Take me out to eat tomorrow. I also want to see a Totoro movie." "All right." He gently lowered his eyes and gently planted a kiss between her brows. "Good girl." After saying goodbye to Fang Juning, Luo Qingchen turned to leave and took out her phone to call Xiamo. Su Shirwang narrowed her eyes and looked at her back. Her heart inexplicably thumped. It was a very strange feeling. It was as if her heart suddenly sank, but she couldn't tell why. Sometimes, a person's sixth sense was very accurate. As early as the evening, Xiamo was followed. The one who followed her was none other than Lin Naichuan, who had left the medical school. Luo Qingchen always had Su Shirwang by her side. Lin Naichuan felt that it wasn't easy for her to do it, so she targeted Xiamo. But after all, she was just a woman. If she wanted to do it alone, it wouldn't be so easy. But God seemed to give her a chance to take revenge. She actually saw Xiamo pick up the car with her own eyes. Although it was just a very ordinary car, Xiamo seemed to be very happy. New drivers were always slow. She had been looking for an opportunity the whole night, but because Lin Hui was by her side, she couldn't find a suitable opportunity. She could only drive and follow behind Xiamo. Finally, at 10:30 p.m., she said goodbye to Lin Hui and drove alone. She stopped at the entrance of Xiqing Hospital. In the underground garage, she heard the conversation between Xiamo and Luo Qingchen. It was said that because of the news of the explosion at the chemical plant, she did not manage to go on a date with Su Shirwang. However, this was great news for her. Originally, she had only wanted to deal with Xiamo first. She never thought that she would find such an opportunity to kill two birds with one stone. While Xiamo was looking for Luo Qingchen after parking his car, she did something to the brakes of Xiamo's new car. This was not a difficult task for her, and it was not the first time she had done it. When everything was ready, she sat back in the car and waited for them to get in. She was waiting for an opportunity to create an accident. In the elevator, Luo Qingchun rubbed her stomach and said, I'm starving. What did you and Lin Hui eat today? Why didn't you bring me anything? We're full. Xiaomo smiled and said, I came to pick you up for dinner. Did your doctor or husband go to pick up girls? Nonsense. Luo Qingchun defended Su Shiguang and said, he went to save the earth. That's amazing. It's super amazing. The elevator reached the second floor with a ding. Luo Qingchun pursed her lips and said, let's go to the Western food stall. End of chapter. Chapter 32:57. Roger that. Xiaomo blinked and said, Dear guest, please get in the car. I'm a new driver, so I might drive a bit slowly. Please don't mind me. Luo Qingchun was amused by Xiaomo's official tone. She opened the car door and said, Xiaomo, you really look like a taxi driver. Of course, Xiaomo replied proudly. I'm going to rely on this car to make some extra money. I'm going to earn back the cost of the car. That might be a bit difficult. After saying this, a scene of a car crashing into a car flashed in front of her eyes, and her heart started to beat rapidly. When she came back to her senses, Xiaomo's car was already on a flat road. Qingchun, huh? You don't look well. Xiaomo looked at her worriedly and said, Are you feeling unwell? Do you want to go home and cook some porridge? She rarely saw Luo Qingchun so flustered. Normally, no matter what she did, her eyes would be calm. She was talking and laughing when she got in the car. Why did she suddenly become so quiet? Luo Qingchun nodded slightly. Her eyebrows were tightly knitted. She felt very uneasy. This feeling of uneasiness seemed to be warning her that something bad was about to happen. This was what her weak precognition told her. A car crash. Was it referring to Xiaomo's car? We're not going to the food stall. Slow down and stop the car on the side of the road. Xiaomo blinked and said, But we're almost there. Listen to me. Luo Qingchun didn't explain anything. Although she didn't know what would happen, and it might have been an illusion, she felt that it was better to stop the car first. Okay, Xiaomo replied bitterly. Just as she was about to slow down the car, her face turned pale. Even her lips couldn't help but tremble. What's wrong with you? Luo Qingchun frowned. What's wrong with you? Xiaomo's hands trembled and his eyes turned red. He choked and said, Qingchun, I don't think I can stop. What did you say? Luo Qingchun almost exclaimed out loud. Her eyes widened as she asked, Are you sure? I should be sure, don't panic. Let's change seats first. I'll drive, and you find a chance to jump. Beep, 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 beep. Little did they know, Luo Qingchun's voice had barely faded away when she reached out her hand and heard the sound of a horn. Luo Qingchun looked at the rearview mirror. She saw a red car, C10228. Why does he look so familiar? The next second, she snapped out of her daze and gritted her teeth. Oh no, Lin Nichuan, what Lin Nichuan? Xiaomo, listen to me. There's a road ahead that will pass by a large patch of grass. After we change seats, I'll tell you to jump out of the car. I don't. Xiaomo gripped the steering wheel tightly and said, I don't want to leave Qingchun alone. Luo Qingchun didn't know how to explain in such a dangerous situation. She could only shout, Listen to me, but I can't change seats with you. Luo Qingchun frowned. Xiaomo was nervous and couldn't change seats with her. Moreover, the car was getting faster and faster. If they changed seats, it was very likely that they would hit other cars or guardrails. Then don't change seats. If I tell you to jump out of the car, just jump. Asterisk, 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 good night, little cuties, end of chapter. Chapter 32:58. Because the situation was too urgent, Luo Qingchun could only think of how to survive. The car was moving too fast, and the wind rushed in through the window. The cold wind made her feel more awake. Jump when I count to 3, okay? But I don't want to leave you behind. Miss, you can leave me behind. I have my own way of escaping. Go, okay. Xiaomo opened the car door with trembling hands. Lin Nichuan, who was following closely behind, instantly guessed their next move. At this moment, it was as if she was possessed by a demon. She was surrounded by a black aura. You want to protect one of us? Lin Nichuan's lips curved into an extremely cold smile. I've already become like this, neither human nor ghost. Guess if I'll give you a chance. The moment she finished muttering, a sharp light flashed in her eyes. She stepped hard on the accelerator with her right foot and slammed into the back of Xiaomo's car. Ah, Xiaomo screamed. His whole body shook, and he suddenly dropped the steering wheel. Xiaomo. At this moment, their car had started to drift off the one-way lane, and its speed was gradually increasing. The surrounding cars were gradually moving away from them, but because the car was moving too fast, it was impossible for them to get away. What should they do? What should they do now? If they didn't stop quickly, they wouldn't be the only ones injured. It might cause a chain accident. Wait, could it be that the scene that flashed through her mind at that moment, the foresight was, bang, she didn't have time to think about the current situation. Lin Nichuan's car had already slammed into them again. This time, they weren't so lucky. In fact, Luo Qingxun didn't know what happened at that moment. All he could hear was the sound of cars crashing into each other. The deafening noise made him lose all ability to perceive the outside world. To put it simply, she lost all her senses. But the situation at the scene was more serious than she had imagined. 16 cars had collided, and more than 30 people were injured. Lin Nichuan climbed out of her car. The right side of her face was stained with blood, and her hair was messy. But at this moment, she was calmer than ever. She took out her phone from her pocket with trembling hands, took a picture of the car Luo Qingxun and Xiaomo were in, and sent it to them anonymously. Su Shiguang and Lin Hui. Wasn't it blissful? Wouldn't they be happy together forever? Didn't they want to be each other's one and only? If he didn't even have the one and only, how could he be happy? Finally, she had finally fulfilled the long-cherished wish in her heart. Hell was so scary. Why did she have to go there alone? Less than 10 seconds after sending out the MMS, her phone started vibrating crazily. The Prince Charming of the medical school, the proud Professor Su, actually called her. She didn't know why, but at this moment, she felt incomparably carefree. The anxiety of these days had all been swept away. The surrounding noises were like applause in her eyes. She was like a demon living in her own world, and all the destruction made her feel excited. Quick, call an ambulance. Is anyone there? Is anyone there? Can you save my child? He's stuck. Save me. Save me. Someone come and save me. End of chapter. Chapter 32:59. Cries for help and the sound of explosions spread throughout the scene. That kind of wailing, that kind of desolation, that kind of terrifying. At this time, Su Shiguang, who was in the hospital, was more terrified than anyone else. His hand that picked up the scalpel for the first time was trembling. Professor Su, are you okay? Su Shiguang closed his eyes, took off his gloves, and called Professor Wang. His voice trembled slightly as he said, Professor, is your operation done? Can you take over for me? Professor Wang was a little surprised. Ever since Su Shiguang came to work in the hospital, he had always been outstanding. No matter how difficult the operation was, he had never asked for help. He glanced at the operating table on the computer. He was sitting on the operating table now. This operation was only a hemangioblastoma removal operation. He shouldn't have asked for help. Aren't you usually very? He wanted to mock him a little. After all, he was very competitive in the industry. Usually, he was a maverick and didn't have much contact with him. However, before he finished speaking, Su Shiguang directly interrupted him and said, Please, Professor. After all, he was old, so Professor Wang didn't make it difficult for him. He nodded and said, I'll go to the operating room now. Prepare the patient's file and information. Okay, do you have something urgent? Su Shiguang took a deep breath and said, My wife was in a car accident. The place where the accident happened was not far from the hospital. Just now, he had confirmed that the hospital had sent 5 ambulances, which proved that they were indeed sending the injured people to the hospital. After he prepared the information, he almost didn't think about it and rushed to the emergency room. As soon as he ran to the emergency room, Fang Juning stopped him outside the door and said, Don't go in first. He didn't stop. Li Guang flashed in his eyes, and he was determined to walk in. Your wife and her friend, since she was sent to the emergency room, it means that she didn't die on the spot. So, He took a deep breath and nervously swallowed his saliva, so I can save her, although she didn't die on the spot. Fang Juning handed the diagnosis report from 3 minutes ago to Su Shiguang and said, "Look at it yourself. Even if you want to operate on her, the success rate is too low. Skull fracture, intracranial hematoma, open brain injury, lung penetration. I can." Su Shiguang closed the document with her trembling right hand and said, "I really can prepare the operating table and help me contact Professor Situ to deal with the other patient who was sent in together with her." Professor Situ is already inside. Fang Juning sighed and said, "Her situation is even worse. Even if the operation is successful, it is very likely that she will become a vegetable." After a long time, Su Shiguang closed her eyes and slowly opened them again. "It's good that you're alive. As long as he could survive, there was still hope. I'll perform a series of operations with you." "Okay, thank you." He washed his hands, sterilized his hands, and put on his scrubs. His phone rang again. The nurse picked it up for him, and he walked out of the operating room. "Senior." Lin Hui's face was pale as he stood in place. He clutched his chest and said, "You have to save Xia and Mo. I beg you, you have to save Xia and Mo." They had just gotten together, and they still had so many happy things to do. How could she be so cruel as to abandon him? End of chapter. Chapter 3260. "Don't worry, Professor Situ is my teacher." Su Shiguang frowned and said, "He will save Xia and Mo Lin Hui." Su Shiguang had never doubted himself in his life, but at this moment, he was very afraid. He was afraid that the so-called medical genius couldn't save her. He was afraid that he would have to watch her die on the operating table. He didn't dare to face it. He didn't dare to face it at all. "I believe in you." After so many days together, Lin Hui didn't know Su Shiguang completely, but he knew his character. Generally speaking, doctors weren't allowed to operate on their loved ones in the hospital, but Luo Qingqin's injury was too serious. Other than Professor Situ, he was the only one in the entire hospital who could perform this operation. Firstly, he couldn't leave Xia and Mo alone. Secondly, that was his wife's life. He had to snatch her from the king of hell with his own hands. He was a doctor, a so-called miracle in the medical field. If he couldn't even save his own wife, what kind of doctor was he? "Thank you for your trust. You can definitely save Qing Chun. You definitely can. They definitely will be fine." Lin Hui wiped the man's tears that fell from his eyes as he said, "They definitely will be fine. Trust me." These were the last words Su Shiguang said to Lin Hui. As soon as his voice fell, he put on a mask and walked into the operating room. When he held the scalpel tightly and looked at Luo Qingqin, who was on the ventilator with a calm expression, his heart suddenly calmed down. At this moment, she had completely given herself to him. Just like on their wedding night, she had given him everything. At this moment, he couldn't be nervous. "Professor Su," the anesthesiologist said, "the anesthesia is done." "Okay." Su Shiguang nodded and said, "Let's start." From repairing the blood vessels to removing the blood clots, every decision was like walking on a tightrope. If he wasn't careful, he would fall into the abyss. At first, Su Shiguang was afraid. Even when he used the scalpel to cut her skin, his heart ached. Usually, when she was at home, he would carefully bandage her wounds for her if she bumped into something. She would always look depressed, afraid that it would leave a scar. Now, he was using a sharp scalpel to cut open her skin. "Professor, let's continue." His low voice sounded with a hint of sobbing. The operation lasted for a total of 18 hours. All the medical personnel were highly focused, and all the dangerous operations were carried out without any mishaps. Except, "Thank you for saving my wife's life." He personally did the final suture and then bowed deeply to all the medical personnel who participated in the protection. "Thank you very much." "Professor Su, don't say that." One of the nurses said, "This is what we should do. However, you should be clear about the decisions you made during the surgery." Fang Juning looked at him and said, "In order to ensure that her brain stem is not damaged by the surgery, her hippocampus has suffered serious damage." "I know. How can you be so relaxed?" Fang Juning frowned and said, "The fact that her hippocampus has suffered such serious damage proves that her memory will be seriously messed up or even she won't have any memories. The memories mentioned here were not only emotional memories, but also life memories. For example, basic literacy, eating, bathing, and other basic knowledge. It's all right. Su Shiguang's expression relaxed a lot. A faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth and said, I can teach her. In a chapter. Chapter 32:61. As long as she was alive, God was good enough for him. At least during the many thrilling moments during the operation, he relied on his strength and luck to turn the situation into safety. Perhaps it should not be said that it was because of his strength and luck. It should be said that it was because of his influence and his wife's luck. Fang Juning was slightly stunned by his words. In her opinion, Su Shiguang was a proud and aloof person who was obsessed with medicine and would not care so much about love. However, it seemed that it was the opposite. Su Shiguang was 1,000,000 times more obsessed with love than medicine. You really love your wife. After a long time, Fang Juning said in an envious tone, she's really happy to have you. It should be me who's happy to have her. Su Shiguang breathed a sigh of relief and said, I'll send her to the ICU first. Everyone has worked hard. The moment he pushed her into the ICU, he connected all the instruments and was relieved when everything was normal. Now, apart from worrying about her memory, he was most worried about the infection of the wound. After all, it was a major operation. In fact, one of the wounds was still in the lungs. If the wound was infected, everything would be in vain. Therefore, he decided to take a leave of absence and personally watch over her. Professor Su. A soft voice sounded. Su Shiguang turned around and saw the young nurse in the operating room. What's wrong? Professor Su, you've worked hard. There are people on duty here to watch over your wife. The young nurse pursed her lips and said, Do you want to take a rest? No need. Su Shiguang politely shook his head and said, You go rest. I'll be worried if I'm not here. The young nurse lowered her eyes and said, Okay, I'll get a blanket for the professor. Sushi was a very inconspicuous nurse in a hospital. Her looks and abilities were average. She admired Su Shiguang, so she was particularly concerned about his matters. This kind of admiration had nothing to do with love. When she accompanied him to save his wife, she had a sense of pride in fighting side by side. Okay, thank you. In the next second, Su Shiguang seemed to have thought of something and called out to her. Sushi, can you help me check if Professor Sidhu's operation is over? Sushi was stunned. So this was how it felt to have someone she admired remember her name. I'll go right away. She pursed her lips and said with a smile that was difficult to conceal, Thank you, Professor. Su Shiguang was stunned for a moment as a strange look appeared in his eyes. He really couldn't understand why the other party thanked him when he was the one who asked for help. However, she suddenly felt that the people around him were all very nice. Because at his most helpless moment, they had given him the deepest encouragement and support. Professor Situ's operating table. Xiaomo's surgery was an hour later than Luo Qingqian's. His life was saved, but whether or not he could wake up was another matter altogether. Send the patient to the intensive care unit. He then turned to look at Su Shi and said, Take me to see Professor Su Shiguang. All right. Su Shiguang glanced at Xiaomo's surgery and then looked at Professor Sidhu. This is already the best result. I know he's your friend. Zhu Ning has already told me. Professor Sidhu said, Unfortunately, I can't guarantee that she'll wake up. If she couldn't, she would be in a vegetative state forever. You've done your best, Professor. If it weren't for you, Xiaomo wouldn't have survived. Su Shiguang sincerely thanked him. Her boyfriend is waiting outside. I'll let him in. ****** good night. In a chapter. Chapter 32:62. Lin Hui's face was still pale when he walked into the ICU, but when he saw Xiaomo, he felt relieved. Miss Xiaomo, I know. Professor Sidhu wanted to explain, but he was interrupted by Lin Hui. Shiguang has already told me. Thank you. Although her brain is damaged, I believe Miss Xiaomo will wake up. Professor Sidhu looked at him and said, During the operation, the doctor and the patient often have a kind of spiritual communication. I have a strong feeling that she wants to live. Really? Really? Su Shiguang lowered his eyes and looked at Luo Qingqian's sleeping face. He frowned slightly. Professor Situ was right. There was indeed such a connection between the doctor and the patient, but maybe he was too panicked during the operation, so he didn't have such a connection. Professor Situ is right. There is such a connection between the doctor and the patient. Su Shiguang patted Lin Hui's shoulder and said, "Cheer up. You too." Lin Hui knew that he was different from Su Shiguang. He had already handed Xia Mo's life to God. He hoped that God would help him and make her operation a success. But Luo Qingqian's life was in Su Shiguang's hands. His pressure was greater than anyone else's, and he had to bear more than anyone else's. Lin Hui worshipped him. If he had to perform such a difficult operation on Xia Mo, he knew that he wouldn't be able to do it no matter how much he stimulated his adrenaline. "I will," Su Shiguang replied faintly. In fact, he wasn't nervous or afraid. Even if he had to start all over again, it didn't matter to him. He still had a long life. He had enough time to accompany her. Even if she couldn't recover her memory, she could have a different story. What Su Shiguang didn't know was that Luo Qingqian was having a very boring conversation with the system at this time. Why does the host keep disturbing the system? "Hey, come on, I want to wake up as soon as possible, okay? The problem is that this body can't support it. The host will wake up in 20 hours. If the host feels bored, you can rest." "I'm not going to rest. During the operation, I was scared that my husband would cut me to death. Now, I'm still scared and don't dare to rest." However, he still needed Xia and Mo to be fine. Otherwise, he would really be letting her down. "Host, you made the right choice back then. You just didn't expect that Lin Nichuan would risk her life to hit your car." Xia and Mo couldn't teleport with him, and there were too many cars around. There was no point in using space-time freeze. Yes, Linnaeus wanted to use this method to perish together with the host. Under such circumstances, it's very normal that you didn't expect it. Will Xia and Mo wake up? "Host, shouldn't you be worried about losing your memory first? What does the original owner's memory loss have to do with me?" "What you said makes a lot of sense." Yes, actually, Su Shiguang wasn't worried about losing her memory at all. The original owner didn't have much memory left. Moreover, she had received what she needed to receive. She didn't care whether she had memories or not. However, what she was most worried about was how many incisions Su Shiguang had made on her with a scalpel. End of chapter. Chapter 3263. The system's deduction was correct. She woke up 20 hours later. During this time, apart from eating and bathing, Su Shiguang spent the rest of her time by Luo Qingqian's side. The hospital was very good to her. They assigned her and Xia Mo to the same intensive care unit. This way, she could better observe the changes in their conditions. Fortunately, neither of them were infected. Although they didn't wake up, their conditions were stable. Lin Hui knocked on the door and brought in their latest blood and biochemical reports. Everything is normal. Lin Hui first looked at Xia Mo, who was lying on the bed. Then, her gaze fell on Su Shiguang. "In the past few days in the hospital, I suddenly felt a sense of mission as a doctor." Su Shiguang's lips curled into a faint smile. When you graduate and become a doctor, that sense of mission will be even stronger, because it was the only profession that snatched people from the hands of death every day. It was sacred and dangerous. Xia Mo's indicators have increased a lot. Su Shiguang looked at the report and said, "It's a good sign." "Yes, I hope so too." Lin Hui frowned. "Do you want to tell Qingqian when she wakes up?" He had heard about Luo Qingqian's hippocampus being damaged. Although Su Shiguang had never mentioned it to him, he understood. "It's still the same as before." Su Shiguang shrugged. "Don't worry. I'm already mentally prepared. You're so good to her. You're the same to Xianmo, right?" "Yes." It was 7 o'clock at night. Luo Qingqian felt a buzzing in her ears. She kept trying to open her eyes, but in the end, she failed. Fortunately, the two of them kept nagging. She finally moved her eyes. Her fingertips trembled, and she slowly opened her eyes. "You guys are so noisy." Luo Qingqian rubbed her eyes and blinked. "I can't sleep well." Actually, she wanted to wake up sooner. The conversation with the system was too boring. It might be more interesting if she was talking to Su Shiguang and Lin Hui. However, the moment she woke up, she felt extremely tired. Her head felt heavy and her feet felt light. She felt as if there was something heavy wrapped around her head. Actually, her feeling wasn't wrong, because her head was indeed wrapped in a thick layer of gauze, the kind that had 3 layers on the inside and 3 layers on the outside. Lin Hui was stunned. He pointed at Luo Qingshun and said, Sure, Guang, Qing. Qingshun, I know. Su Shiguang immediately helped her up. Her eyes trembled a little nervously as she asked, Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Do you feel dizzy or can't see anything? In the next second, Lin Hui hurriedly interrupted him. You can't ask that. What if she doesn't understand? After all, they were all medical students. What was lost when the hippocampus was severely damaged might not necessarily be emotional memories. It could also be behavioral memories. If she couldn't understand what he was saying, she wouldn't be able to respond properly. Su Shiguang naturally understood what Lin Hui meant, but he didn't know how to express it. In an instant, Lin Hui began to use his body language. He stretched out his hand, touched her head, and blinked his eyes. Luo Qingshun frowned slightly. She waved her hand and said, Stop shaking. You're making my head hurt. End of chapter. Chapter 3264. She didn't feel dizzy at first, but after being shaken by Su Shiguang, she felt a little dizzy. I'm sorry, Lin Hui said excitedly. Shiguang, Qingshun didn't lose her memory. She can understand what we mean, and she can talk to us. Really? This really surprised Su Shiguang, because she was the person he snatched from the King of Hell. Her hippocampus was indeed impacted. Even if she didn't lose all her memory, it was impossible for her to be able to talk so fluently as soon as she woke up. Why are you looking at me like that? Luo Qingshun frowned and said, I feel very uncomfortable. Su Shiguang immediately recovered and poured a glass of water for her. I'm your doctor in charge. You experienced a serious car accident a few days ago, so you may not remember some things. He tried to tell her the current situation and what happened in the most tactful way possible. After all, he and Lin Hui were strangers to her now. It was inevitable that she would feel strange or uncomfortable. I'm okay. Luo Qingshun gently raised her right hand and touched her head full of gauze. So my hair? Su Shiguang and Lin Hui were stunned when they heard that. They couldn't follow Luo Qingshun's train of thought for a moment. She kept repeating that they were not paying attention to the same thing at all. Luo Qingshun looked at Su Shiguang with a sad face and said, Hubby, you didn't cut my hair and then made a big and long cut on my head, right? She was so smart, so she could naturally see why Su Shiguang and Lin Hui were at a loss. So, it was quite interesting to push the boat with the current. Qingshun, what did you say? Lin Hui took a step back and said in disbelief, Wow, don't tell me you remember not only your memory of behavior, but also your memory of emotions. Su Shiguang looked at her with a cute face and said, Not only the big and long cut on my head, but also on my body. I think so. Su Shiguang blinked and said, Actually, I don't remember it clearly. Maybe not. Wow. How can you not remember the operation you performed on yourself? Luo Qingshun sighed dejectedly. Are you not satisfied with me? Is that why you gave me so many openings? I'm sorry, wife. Su Shiguang looked at her in surprise and joy. She wanted to hug her tightly in her arms, but she was afraid of touching her wound. She could only gently stroke her cheek and said, It's good that you still remember. I don't want scars. No scars, Su Shiguang said with a doting expression. Those are all cute marks. Instantly, Lin Hui shook her head in disbelief and said, Qingshun, you are definitely a medical miracle. You didn't forget anything. Memory itself is an ethereal thing. The hippocampus is just the carrier of memory. Luo Qingshun rolled her eyes and said, Maybe the carrier of my memory is not the hippocampus. If it's not the hippocampus, what is it? Luo Qingshun bit her lip and thought for a while. She said, I think we should put this question aside for the time being, because it's more complicated. As a doctor, she had a particularly diligent and inquisitive side. She didn't want to explain such a difficult carrier problem. End of this chapter. Chapter 3265. 3 days later, the stitches on her body could be removed. Su Shiguang stayed by her side the whole time. When she was free, she would also study Xiaomo's case. According to the degree of damage to Xiaomo's brain, the chances of her waking up should be very low. However, Professor Sidu really avoided a lot of risks, so there was hope for her to wake up. Lin Hui, I'm actually responsible for what happened to Xiaomo. Luo Qingshan wanted to say something, but Lin Hui interrupted her. Actually, Yinshis came to the hospital a few days ago and said some words of self-blame. Lin Hui smiled helplessly. Is that important? It's not important anymore. The most important thing to him now was that Xia Mo could wake up. It was fine as long as she could wake up. Why'd he come? It's annoying. Luo Qingshan snorted. Lin Nichuan caused such a serious traffic accident. Doesn't she have to take responsibility? She was also seriously injured. Plus, she was diagnosed with a mental illness. Su Shiguang frowned. The police can't detain her. This kind of person is a scourge to the mental patients in the mental hospital. Luo Qingshan moved her neck and said, I'm going to take revenge. Hey. Lin Hui hurriedly handed her an orange. Miss, take it easy. You're seriously injured now, and you're still going to take revenge? What that Lin Nichuan did was insane. You little lamb, you're just going to deliver your head to her, okay? Me? Little sheep? Luo Qingshan put her hands on her hips. Do I look like a little sheep? Asked Shiguang. Yes. Su Shiguang immediately nodded. Yes. She was a patient who had undergone major surgery. If she wasn't a little sheep, what was she? He didn't want her to think about revenge when she hadn't recovered from her injuries. A person like Lin Nichuan was basically done for in this life. It wasn't worth it to do anything to her. He didn't want to experience the scene of her lying in front of him covered in blood again. It was an accident that she succeeded. Luo Qingshan looked away and said, It doesn't matter if she's crazy or pretending to be crazy. She caused Xiaomo to become like this, so she can't live. If she had been alone in the car at that time, Lin Nichuan would not have been able to succeed. But it was also because of this that she had harmed Mo Qingshan. Lin Hui's eyebrows slightly trembled as he murmured, The look in your eyes just now was so scary. In short, before your injuries are completely healed, you can't have any other thoughts. Su Shiguang looked at her seriously and said, Even if you have any ideas, you can tell me. I will carry them out for you. Ahem. Luo Qingshan rolled her eyes and said, I thought of something that you can help me with. What is it? Hurry up and go home, take a bath, and then have a good sleep. Luo Qingshan pursed her lips and said, You're here every day. You're about to turn into a bearded uncle. You're not a Prince Charming at all. I don't care about that. Su Shiguang gently patted her head and said, I just want to be with you. Probably because he had experienced life and death, he deeply understood that she was too important to him. But I do care. Luo Qingshan thought for a moment and said, And I want to eat your porridge tomorrow. I won't run around at night. You don't have to accompany me. Lin Hui agreed and said, Don't worry and go back. This hospital is full of your people. Where can she go? Thank you to all the little fairies for your tips. End of chapter. Chapter 3266. Su Shiguang glanced at Luo Qingshan and said, But I'm still worried. Those who had experienced life and death would always have a particularly neurotic feeling. It was as if the person they loved would be in danger if they were to leave their side. This is the hospital. Luo Qingshan pushed his arm and said, What's there to be worried about? You'll probably know everything once I leave the ward. That's good. Su Shiguang nodded gently and said, I'll go back and reorganize your medical records and information to prevent repeated complications. Okay. Because he had been by her side for the past few days, Su Shiguang didn't reorganize the information during her surgery and the follow-up test results. Brain surgery was different from other surgeries. The sequelae and complications wouldn't appear immediately. Some would even have an incubation period of up to 3 months. Therefore, it was necessary to observe closely at all times. However, her condition seemed to have stabilized, so he wasn't that worried. It was always good to be more careful. Lin Hui had also stayed in the ward for many days. Besides chasing Su Shiguang away, Luo Qingxun also asked Lin Hui to go back and rest. Of course, she didn't want to be alone for some peace and quiet. She just wanted to meet some people and settle some scores. Okay. Mental Hospital, a section, room 1005. Lin Nichuan had been in this hospital for about a week. Her days weren't boring. She even felt that the people here were very interesting. However, she received a call from Yin Shi's today, which instantly made her mood very bad. Luo Qingxun actually woke up. She was clearly covered in blood. How could she wake up? Why was someone whose brain was badly mutilated still alive? Chun, let's play doctor and nurse together today, okay? A person with a red flower on her head walked towards her. Get lost. Lin Nichuan pushed her hard and roared, Get lost. You're a bad person. You're a bad person. At this moment, she suddenly felt that the people here were all mentally retarded. Her insanity was different from these idiots. She just had an inner demon. She just wanted Luo Qingxun and Xia Mo to die. It didn't matter what kind of price she had to pay. What did it have to do with her if others were buried with her? Why didn't you die? Why did he come back to life? She deserves to die. Lin Nichuan muttered to herself. I must get out. I must find a way out. She's not dead. I can't be trapped here. Lin Nichuan took a deep breath and locked the door of the ward. Recently, she had a bad habit. Whenever she was thinking about something, she would lock herself up. She didn't want any crazy people to disturb her. Moreover, the matter he was thinking about this time was more important. How to enter the hospital and how to stab Luo Qingxun in the back. This wasn't an easy matter. They needed a thorough plan. Little did she know that in the next second, a familiar voice rang out, causing her back to stiffen and the hairs on her entire body to stand on end. Let me guess. Do you want to go to the hospital and stab me now? Luo Qingxun was wearing plush bunny pajamas as she leaned against the wall, as her lips curled into a cold smile. The mental hospital was not as heated as her ward. In order not to catch a cold, she casually put on her pajamas when she came out. She didn't want Professor Su to worry. However, he would never know about this kind of teleportation scene. This book came from Chapter 3267. Lin Nichuan's body trembled, and her heart began to pound uncontrollably. This was a very strange feeling. It was as if a venerable from hell had descended, and the surrounding atmosphere was filled with fear. You, how did you get in? Lin Nichuan's face turned pale. She was very sure that she had locked the door. But how could Luo Qingxun suddenly appear? Is it important how I got in? Luo Qingxun raised her hands and put on the plush hat. Her lips curled into a cold smile as she said, The important thing is that you're looking for me, right? At this moment, the murderous intent in Lin Nichuan's heart overshadowed her fear. She slowly took out a sharp fruit knife from under her pillow and gripped it tightly in her hand. Haha, yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. Since you delivered yourself to my doorstep, don't blame me for being ruthless. Wait. Luo Qingxun rested her chin on her left hand, and a dark light flashed through her deep eyes. She looked at Lin Nichuan and said, Before this, didn't you wonder how I got in? Lin Nichuan didn't know why, but she felt that Luo Qingxun was very terrifying. Her clothes were very normal, and her voice didn't change, but her tone was like that of an ethereal demon. It made people feel endless fear. No, it's not important. Lin Nichuan shook her head and said, It's not important at all. She had to desperately control the fear in her heart to use all her strength to viciously stab Luo Qingxun in the heart. Then I'll tell you. In the next second, she narrowed her eyes and frowned. The fruit knife in Lin Nichuan's hand shook and fell to the ground with a thud. She was startled. Just as she was about to bend down to pick up the fruit knife, she heard a whoosh and floated into the air as if she could move. At this moment, Lin Nichuan's eyes widened in shock. She opened her mouth to say something, but no words came out. What did she see? What did she see? This kind of thing simply couldn't exist in this world. Lin Nichuan, this is the answer. As soon as he finished speaking, the fruit knife seemed to be controlled by an invisible figure and rushed directly towards Lin Nichuan's throat. She quickly retreated and was forced into a corner. You, how is this possible? Lin Nichuan shook her head. Impossible. This must be my hallucination. It must be my hallucination. No, this isn't your imagination. Luo Qingshun raised her eyebrows, and her eyes flashed with an extremely cold light. I used teleportation to come here, and I used telekinesis to control your fruit knife. No, Lin Naichen screamed with all her might. This is impossible. I'm dreaming. I'm definitely dreaming. Wake up. Please let me wake up. When a person was in an atmosphere of extreme fear, her mind would begin to go haywire. She would hope that everything she discovered was just a dream. As long as he woke up from his dream, he could pretend that nothing had happened. But reality gave Lin Naichuan a fierce slap in the face. Luo Qingshun coldly snorted, and a sharp killing intent flashed in her clear eyes. This is why you can't kill me, but it's easy for me to kill you. In the next second, before Lin Naichuan could react, the dagger had already pierced her throat. Blood splattered everywhere. This book came from Chapter 3268. After experiencing so much, some people weren't much in the original owner's world. But with the original owner's attitude of keeping the peace, as long as she didn't take the initiative to cause trouble, she could turn a blind eye and pretend she didn't see anything. But if she hurt her or the people important to her, then there was no such thing as letting go or forgiving. There was only one ending, death. She had done so many things to prevent future troubles. Sometimes, she felt that she could really be called a killer, because there were many people who died because of her. The fruit knife pierced Lin Naichuan's neck. The handle was stuck in her throat, while the blade came out from the other side of her neck. Blood splattered. Lin Naichuan's eyes were wide open. Her pupils were still filled with disbelief. Perhaps it could also be called the light of fear. Luo Qingshun raised her eyes. At that moment, she looked at Lin Naichuan in front of her. There was no emotion in her eyes. It was as if everything had returned to the beginning. When she stood in front of the bronze mirror, she was indifferent to everything. But in the next second, her phone rang. It was a call from Su Shirwang. The cold frost in her heart gradually dissipated, leaving behind a warm feeling. Hello, Professor Su. Do you have any instructions? Nothing. Su Shirwang was lying on the bed. Next to her was the little bear she often hugged when sleeping. Her eyes were filled with gentleness and love as she said to the phone, I miss you a little. Then you have to come earlier tomorrow. Luo Qingshun glanced at the corridor outside the door. It seemed that a few people had already walked towards Lin Naichuan's room because of the sound just now. What was that sound on your side? Nothing. Luo Qingshun chuckled and said, I ate a little too much just now, so I went downstairs for a walk. The moment she said this, she closed her eyes and instantly teleported to her room. Are you alone? Su Shirguang sat up from the bed and said, I'll go over to accompany you. Don't. Luo Qingshun changed into a pair of slippers and took off her fluffy pajamas. I'm already lying down. I always feel that I can't be at ease leaving you alone. Su Shirguang smiled faintly. Do you feel troubled by me being like this? Yeah. Luo Qingshun closed her eyes and said in a daze, Actually, before I met Professor Su, I never thought that such a proud person would be so clingy. Su Shirguang seemed to have heard the word clingy and said in frustration, But what if I can't change? No need to change it. Luo Qingshun pursed her lips and smiled. I like it very much. The feeling of needing and being needed touched her heart in a warm moment. She seemed to be a little sleepy. As Su Shirguang's gentle voice drifted into her ears, she unknowingly fell asleep. When she woke up the next morning, Su Shirguang had arrived earlier than she had expected. The breakfast was personally made, but judging from the ingredients, it seemed to have been cooked in a hurry. Lin Naichuan is dead. Su Shirguang frowned slightly. She died in her room in the mental hospital. The way she died was very strange. Oh. Luo Qingshun's eyebrows trembled slightly. Evil people have their retribution. Su Shirguang was a smart person. After he heard about this incident, he asked his police friend to send over the photos of the scene. Lin Naichuan's death was very strange. There were no signs of fighting at the scene, only the fruit knife that killed the victim. If one wanted to use that knife to pierce through a person's neck, a normal person wouldn't be able to do it. This book came from Chapter 3269. The police had already classified this as a murder case, but they couldn't find anyone else's fingerprints at the scene other than Lin Nichuan's. Also, the surveillance cameras in the corridor didn't capture anyone entering Lin Nichuan's room, but it was impossible for her to commit suicide. This matter became a mystery. Since Yin Shuz was Lin Nichuan's ex-boyfriend, he was summoned by the police. Do you know if the deceased Lin Nichuan had any enemies or if she offended anyone? I don't know. Where were you last night? I was drinking with my friends on West Street until this morning. Yin Shuz sneered. Do the police suspect people so casually nowadays? Please understand our work. The police frowned and said, I heard that there was a love triangle between you, her, and another girl. It can't be her. Please provide her contact details and location. Yin Shuz didn't hide anything. No matter how hard he tried to hide it, the police could trace it back to Luo Qingxun. But when the police saw Luo Qingxun lying on the hospital bed, they didn't even ask where she was last night. How could someone who had just undergone a major brain surgery be out of breath when walking? How could she run to a mental hospital so far away to kill someone? Sorry to disturb you. I hope you have a good rest. Thank you. Su Shiguang smiled faintly. I'll send you out. When Su Shiguang left the room, other than the sleeping Xiaomo, there was only her and Yin Shuz in the room. Yin Shuz hesitated for a long time before asking, How have you been? Not bad, Luo Qingxun replied indifferently. He frowned slightly and said, Nichuan's death. Are you suspecting me? Luo Qingxun sneered and said, Then I'll have to disappoint you. There are surveillance cameras inside and outside the hospital. The police will definitely investigate. Student Yin, you don't have to worry about being suspicious. No. Yin Shuz frowned anxiously and said, I'm worried about you. Since student Yin wants to express your concern, my right hand is inconvenient. Can you pour me a glass of water? All right. Yin Shuz walked to the bedside table and bent down to pour a glass of water for her. Luo Qingxun sat up from the bed and smiled coldly. I was the one who killed her. If you want to avenge her, go ahead. She wasn't sure if Yin Shuz was a friend or foe. If he was an enemy, she would face him head on. If they were friends, no, she didn't want to be friends with him. Perhaps it was because Luo Qingxun's gaze was too cold, but Yin Shuz laughed helplessly. In the end, he only said, as long as you're safe. From then on, she had never seen Yin Shuz again. He had transferred schools while she was hospitalized, so she had never seen him again. As for her and Su Shiguang, ever since the police came looking for her, Su Shiguang had been filled with worries. One day, he even said to her, Qingxun, if you really killed Lin Nichuan, you must tell me. I will definitely think of a way. Professor Su, I do hate her. Luo Qingxun smiled helplessly and replied, But if I really did kill her, do you know how much of the science of physics I would be violating? Perhaps it was because of science, but Professor Su never mentioned this matter again. After she was discharged, she went back to school to attend classes, and he continued to fail in his own field of medicine. The story seemed to be slowly developing towards a happy ending. This book came from Chapter 3270. Regarding Lin Nichuan's case, the police came to her twice. After all, Lin Nichuan didn't seem to have committed suicide. In addition, there were traces of people standing at the door, and the camera in the room happened to be faulty. But no matter from the camera in Xiqing Hospital or the camera in Neurology Hospital, they couldn't find any clues. The evidence told everyone that Luo Qingxun couldn't be Lin Nichuan's murderer, because it went against common sense and science. One of the interns didn't forget to push up his glasses and said, In fact, I think it's okay. As long as you use teleportation and the ability to control objects, it's easy to kill a person without leaving any fingerprints. Bang! His boss directly hit him on the head and said, If I find out that you watch fantasy again, it won't be as simple as a punch. The intern touched his head, and tears were about to fall down. He had to bite his lip and said, Okay. Before leaving, Luo Qingxun called the young policeman while they were doing the final work. Hey, young policeman, come over here. What young policeman? The intern put his hands on his waist and said, I'm an auxiliary policeman. Oh, whatever. Luo Qingxun waved her hand while drinking water and said, I just came to tell you, I think what? Put your ear closer. Oh, the next second, Luo Qingchun said softly, I think what you said is very reasonable. Maybe it's the truth. What? The young policeman shouted, I think you can talk to your boss again. After all, this is a murder case. Don't run. I'm going to talk to him. As soon as his voice fell, he quickly ran to his boss and explained the matter very seriously. The result was obvious. His head was swollen. He returned to Luo Qingchun with a frustrated face and said, Is the world so simple now? Isn't it better to think of things or cases more complicated? Actually, I don't think you're suitable to be a police officer. Luo Qingchun rested her chin on her right hand and thought for a while. Instead, you're more suitable to be a family. The young policeman asked, Really? Really? Luo Qingchun didn't expect that after so many years, this little policeman actually didn't continue to be a policeman, but became a best-selling author. When a reporter asked him why he had so many fantastical ideas, this was his answer. Because I've seen such a powerful person. But this was many years later. Luo Qingchun's story happened when she was just discharged from the hospital. After returning to school, her classmates took care of her even more. After all, people who had experienced life and death would always receive more care. Other than having important surgeries, Su Shiwang would pick her up from school every day and bring her to eat all kinds of delicious food. Life was very nourishing, but the flesh on the body was also very tasty. In a month since she left the hospital, she had gained 10 pounds. Luo Qingchun decided to stop eating since she wouldn't be able to wear a wedding dress if this continued. Although there was still some time before she could wear a wedding dress, it was easy to gain weight, but difficult to lose weight. This was a truth that everyone understood. Su Shiwang didn't care at all. He still tempted her with all kinds of delicious food every day, so that he gained 15 pounds in 2 months. End of this chapter. Chapter 3271. Just go to the market and buy 15 pounds of pork and you'll know what that means. Su Shiwang even said to her innocently, I think you look good when you're fat. At that time, Luo Qingchun cursed in her heart, Look your ass. However, her anxious mood was washed away by the news from the hospital. Xia Mo woke up. Under Lin Hui's protection and companionship for more than 2 months, Xia Mo finally woke up. Although her injuries were serious and it was difficult for her to even speak, she was fine as long as she woke up. Everything else would slowly recover and get better. When Luo Qingchun went to see Xia Mo, she almost cried out loud. It was hard to say whether it was the emotion of reunion or the excitement of a new life. In short, she cried for a long time. That night, Luo Qingchun asked Lin Hui to go back first and stayed with Xia Mo alone. They talked a lot about the danger in the surgery. Xia Mo said to her, I know you killed Lin Nichuan, but why did Qingchun suddenly disappear? Although she was lying quietly on the hospital bed in a vegetative state, she could feel her surroundings. Sometimes, she could even look at her surroundings from a god's perspective. She saw her leave and knew that she was going to find Lin Nichuan. Do you remember when I asked you to jump out of the car on the road? I remember, because if you weren't in the car, I could have easily escaped. So, Qingchun, I probably have a few more abilities than you guys, but I can't use them casually. It's a bit complicated. I understand. Xia Mo nodded and said, Don't talk about it if it's a bit complicated. Anyway, being able to see Qingchun is the happiest thing. That's a bit hypocritical. Luo Qingchun gently patted Xia Mo's head and said, I saw how Lin Hui treated you these 2 months. If you like him, don't miss out on such a good man. Aren't I already his girlfriend? Xia Mo shyly lowered her head and said, What else can it be? You can't be too willful. Luo Qingchun said to her like an experienced person, If one day Lin Hui leaves you because of your willfulness or falls in love with someone else, it will be too late for you to regret. No, he won't like anyone else. Xia Mo seemed to be a little anxious, and his whole body became restless. That might not be the case. I won't like anyone else. The next second, a familiar male voice sounded. Luo Qingchun looked back and saw Lin Hui standing at the door with Xia Mo's favorite food. When Xia Mo heard this, he put his palms together and showed an extremely moved expression. At the same time, He snorted at Luo Qingshun and said, "I told you. He won't like anyone else. Qingshun, you only know how to scare me." Ha ha. Luo Qingshun let out 3 fake laughs. "As long as you guys are happy." She didn't like the sudden change from a caring little sister to a 3,000-watt light bulb. She immediately called her Professor Sue and told him to come and pick her up. Although her professor, Sue, was very busy, he immediately put down everything in his hands and came to the ward. When he appeared in the ward in less than 5 minutes, Luo Qingshun had a very strange feeling. It was as if there was a ray of light when he walked. That ray of light stunned her for a moment. End of chapter. Chapter 3272. I don't dare to look you in the eye for more than 3 seconds. I'm afraid that my eyes will pop out of my sockets. Su Shiguangxi said that I stunned her life, but in fact, she was the one who stunned my life. The first time we met in a buffet restaurant, we got food poisoning. She often said that I was a lonely person who lived in my own domain. I admit it, so I didn't look at her at first. I only knew that she was someone who wanted to help, so I reminded her. But when I finished everything and turned to look at her, there was an inexplicable light in my eyes. I don't know if it was because the lights in the restaurant were too bright, or because she was too beautiful. Anyway, she was like a beam of light, shining into my life without warning. It was like love at first sight. I couldn't look away. But I was always surrounded by people and envied. I always thought that she would want to say something, so I went with the flow. I didn't expect her friend to talk more than her. The two of them were always chattering, so I didn't hear much of what she said. But fortunately, I knew her name and that she was also a medical student. So even though there were many surgeries in the hospital, I still took some time to go to the medical school to give a lecture. Also, as soon as I entered the classroom, I saw her position. I don't know why, but I felt happy at that moment. I rarely felt this way, probably because I always felt that there was nothing in the world that could make me happy. I have to say, it was a good feeling, but I was a little nervous. If I didn't see her when I walked into the classroom, would I feel disappointed? It should be possible, and maybe probably. She listened to my speech very attentively. Perhaps everyone was listening very attentively, but my attention was all on her. At the end of the small interaction session with the assistant professor, although I looked very indifferent on the surface, I was actually very happy. It was probably from that time that my heart started to throb differently. When I held her hand and inserted the needle into my own blood vessel, I didn't feel the bone-piercing cold. On the contrary, what he felt the most was the panic and surprise in her eyes. It seemed that it wouldn't matter even if he inserted a few more needles, because his throbbing heart overshadowed all other feelings. Later on, I always wondered if it was love at first sight, or if it was love when I held her wrist in class. Actually, I roughly knew that the so-called love was probably the night when her white sweater was dyed red with blood. Her eyes were filled with fear, which made me want to rush forward and hug her. After that, I seemed to be different. It was as if he had let go of some so-called burden of stature and wanted to express himself and treat her well. Looking at her wearing my gray sweater, there was a special warm feeling in my heart. It was the same for drying her hair, as if she was already my girlfriend. I would want to explain to her that I had never interacted with a girl like this before. Actually, what I wanted to say at the time was that I didn't bring any girls to my apartment other than her. She was the first and the last. Perhaps it wasn't conceit, but I could feel from her words and actions that she liked me. Although my perturbed heart hadn't been confirmed, I hoped that was the case. So, I invited them to go to Africa to provide medical support. Actually, I regretted it because I made her sick. This book came from Chapter 3273. Africa itself was a place where medical resources were very scarce. It was a very violent infectious disease. The infected people would have a high fever and their lives would be in danger. I panicked at that moment. I felt that I had made a wrong decision. Why did I ask her to do such a difficult thing? Was it just because I selfishly wanted to see her? I regretted it at that time, so my heart ached for her even more. At that time, there was only one thought in my mind. I wanted to get married and marry her. I had to carry out the thought, so I confessed. I was very nervous at that time. Although I looked calm, I was actually very nervous. Fortunately, she agreed. She nodded seriously and was willing to marry me and become my wife. I took her to meet my parents and all my friends and relatives. Then, I took her to apply for the 9 yuan package and receive the certificate that belonged to us. After that, there was a small episode. I accidentally heard about the love triangle between her, Yin Shi's, and Lin Naichuan. Luo Qingqin's voiceover. Did you really just accidentally hear about it? Ahem. It could also be that it wasn't accidental. It was the result of my serious investigation. When I first met Lin Naichuan, I didn't know who she was. It was my usual style to be polite and distant to strangers. However, she seemed to be a little angry and proudly expressed her dissatisfaction. At that time, she was very cute. So much so that when I was on the operating table, whenever that cute smile flashed in my mind, I told myself that I couldn't give up no matter what. Lin Naichuan's appearance was like knocking over her jar of vinegar. She often looked unhappy. Sometimes, she would talk to me angrily. So I decided that even if she didn't agree to my relationship with her, I would still make it public. After all, I didn't want my wife to suffer any grievances. Of course, when I made it public, her little expression was still very cute. She kept blinking at me, trying to use hints to clarify our relationship. But since I had already made up my mind, no matter how she looked at me, she couldn't change my mind. I had to completely carry out my initial plan. I couldn't be confused by her. The moment I told everyone that she was my wife, I felt a special sense of pride in my heart. She was my wife. She had nothing to do with those so-called love triangles. Perhaps there was a little bit of it in the past, but definitely not in the future. However, I didn't expect that woman called Lin Naichuan to do something to Xiaomo's car. It made me experience the most panicked moment of my life. I didn't even dare to recall that feeling a few years later, and I didn't have a strong enough heart to experience it again. The long 18 hours of surgery was like hell to me. I was scared. I was scared from the bottom of my heart. If I didn't take care of the slightest detail properly, I would have personally ruined her life. If you're asking me if I've ever thought about what I should do if I can't save her, I've probably thought about it. In an uninhabited sea area, he would build a small boat, carry her ashes, and accompany her on a journey to the underworld. It sounded very elegant, but at that time, I didn't think that my eyes would turn red when I recalled this scene. Thank goodness, I saved her from the hands of the Grim Reaper. Luckily, she's still by my side. Ding, congratulations on bringing a soul fragment into the lead Godspace 48 of 100. This book comes from Chapter 3274. What happened next? Su Shiguang stood at the door of the ward and handed her a cup of her favorite chocolate milk tea. Then, he gently patted her head and said, "Wife, let's go home." Okay. Luo Qingshun pursed her lips and smiled. She didn't forget to turn around and make a face at Xia Mo and Lin Hui. Although she was a 3,000-watt light bulb in their world of two people, with Su Shiguang holding her hand, she felt that they could become 6,000-watt light bulbs. Before other people could flash them to death, they would blind other people's eyes. After Xia Mo woke up, she was under close observation for 3 months before she was officially discharged. There was a small incident in the middle, which caused Lin Hui to take a leave of absence to accompany her. Xia Mo was very touched and registered her marriage on the day she was discharged. After registering, she didn't forget to take a photo and send it to Luo Qingqin. Then, she showed it off and said, "How is it? I have a license now." Seeing Xia Mo so happy, Luo Qingqin also felt very happy. Because they were lagging behind in their studies, they both felt that they should stay in the first grade. Luo Qingqiang graduated earlier than them. They all sent flowers, but all the surprises were not as good as Su Shiguang's Lincoln. He knelt down on one knee in a formal suit. Yes, the moment he threw his hat into the sky, he walked forward and proposed to her. Envious gazes were all around, and then there was a noisy uproar. Su Shiguang's popularity in school was so high that they actually made the front page of the school website the next day. The comments below were more envious and jealous than well wishes. My Prince Charming is actually getting married. I've been secretly in love with him for 38 years. Luo Qingqin's voiceover. Is Su Shiguang 38 years old? Why didn't Su Shiguang fall from the sky and hit me. It's fine if he didn't hit me in a lottery, but he didn't hit me either. Luo Qingxun's voiceover. What can you do if you're unlucky? Being hit by Su Shiguang is harder than winning the lottery, okay? After all, the lottery opens every day. I'm so envious. He's so handsome. The girl is also very beautiful. I like this kind of matching pair. Although there was envy and jealousy, Luo Qingxun felt that no matter which way it was a witness and blessing to their love. Of course, on the day of her wedding, she received an unexpected gift. There was a postcard from Yin Shu's and a group of couple dolls. She vaguely remembered that this was the promise that the original owner had made to him when they were together. If they got married in the future, they would definitely get 2 couple dolls. And now, he had made Su Shiguang and Luo Qingxun's dolls and gave them to them. The card said, "I wish you happiness." When they returned, they grew old together. This life was very blissful, and they had never been unhappy in the following days. Su Shiguang had taken very good care of her. In the fleeting years of the future, Su Shiguang's life had been breathtaking. The following is a summary of the data for this mission. Please read it carefully. Name, Luo Qingxun Plain Space. You stun my time. Mission completion rate, 100% EXP. For 1,000/10,000, there are currently 5 items in the portable space. April 5th, Exquisite Ring. 9-section Moon Whip, Phoenix Dance Sword, Universal Medicine Box. Permanent ability, Space and Time, Freeze, LV, 6 permanent ability. Teleportation, LVL, 5 permanent ability. Telekinesis, LVL 2, upgrade. Exchange points, 5,500 base points. 40. The host's 49th mission panel is below. Appearance, 90 of 100 strength, 90 of 100 intelligence, 90 of 100 figure, 90 out of 100 in the next second. The bronze mirror changed. Mission level, S. Experience gained, 500 female lead. Luo Qingxun male lead. Lung Qingfeng supporting female lead. Ing Yunfei supporting male lead. Rong Mo mission content. Return to the time before the original owner died and obtain the love of the male lead. End of chapter. Chapter 3275. The world was split into 3, and the strongest was Cold Northern Country, followed by Jade and Yu. Cold Northern Country occupied half of the world and always had the strongest army and the strongest king, Lung Qingfeng. The reason why Lung Qingfeng was so strong was because he was born with the ability to predict the future in a short period of time. Thus, no matter how Jade and Yu Country sent spies, they were useless. And this story didn't happen in Cold Northern Country, but in Yu Country. Why Yu Country? Because the person the previous host loved was Yu Country's fallen king, Rong Mo. In this world, outside of the 3 countries, there was a mysterious foreign race that came from the ancient forbidden sect. It was said that this place was at the peak of a snow mountain, and if one didn't pay attention, they wouldn't be able to see it. The ancient forbidden sect reincarnated once every 100 years, and as the name implied, a divinator would appear every 100 years. What was a divinator? It was going against the heavens to change one's fate, and the previous host was this generation's divinator. Other than going against the heavens to change one's fate, the divinator also had blood that could cure poisons and a body that could heal wounds. But so what? The higher the starting point, the worse the fall at the end. This was a tragic story, so tragic that even Lu Qingxun felt that it was unreal. Rong Mo loved the previous host, but he loved his country even more. When she was 15, the previous host left the ancient forbidden sect for the first time. Because she had been heading east, she ended up in Yu Country. At that time, the king of Yu Country wasn't Rong Mo, but his father Rong Ying. Rong Mo wasn't the chosen one in his heart, since he had many important princes under him. He was the child of a concubine in the cold palace, and naturally wasn't liked by Rong Ying. When the previous host first met him, it was at Yu City's Qingdang Temple. Due to the state banquet being held in the palace, Rong Ying couldn't personally attend the annual Qingdang Temple prayer. The princes wanted to use this chance to get to know or win over the ministers in court, so they weren't willing to go. At this time, the crown prince, Rong Hong, said, "Let Rong Mo go. Didn't his mother just die?" He can go to Qingdang Temple to send his mother off. The moment he said that, the princes all agreed, and their words were filled with playfulness. Rong Mo tightly clenched his fists, and his fingernails dug into his palms, but he didn't feel any pain. Yu's king, Rong Ying, nodded his head indifferently. Rong Mo, then this year, Rong Mo will go to Qingdang Temple. The Yu city's Rong Mo knew that Rong Hung was wanted to mock him and humiliate him. He didn't care about the son of a concubine in the cold palace. In any case, it was impossible for him to pass the throne to him in the future. Yes, Rong Mo lowered his head, his bloodshot eyes flashing with a cold light. The original owner and Rong Mo first met at the cliff behind Qingdang Temple. Rong Mo wanted to commit suicide. Rong, ong, ong. Rong crown to Rong's Rong. Rong, a. Rong was ong, Rong was Rong wanted to die. Rong to die. 2. That was the first sentence that the original owner had spoken to Rong Mo. She was wearing a light green robe, and her large, watery eyes were sparkling. Rong Mo didn't reply. He closed his eyes and took a step forward. Rong, if you have any troubles, you can tell me. What if I can help? This was Rong Mo's reply to her. You can't help me. I was born to be a burden. End of chapter. Chapter 3276. Now that his mother was dead, his high and mighty father didn't even spare him a glance. Once Rong Hung ascended the throne, there would no longer be a place for him in this world. He might even die a tragic death. Since the ending was already set, why not let him die peacefully here? Young master, you don't even know who I am. So how do you know that I can't help you? It was probably Rong Mo's despairing voice that made the original owner's heart tremble, or maybe it was his black robes that made him look a little desolate. In any case, the original owner had lost her heart for a lifetime. You can help me? Rong Mo turned his head, and his lips curled into a mocking smile. How can a little girl like you help me? Perhaps he wasn't mocking the original owner, but more so mocking himself. Because he actually gave up on the idea of suicide because of a little girl's words. The bright moonlight shone on her snow-white face, and he felt that she was really beautiful. In fact, he was handsome himself. He had thick eyebrows, a tall nose, and a chiseled face. He wasn't born like his somewhat plump father, but more like his mother. It was said that after his mother was brought into the palace, she was doted on by Rong Ying and rose up the ranks, becoming King Yu's favorite. But not long after he was born, his mother fell out of favor and was banished to the cold palace. There were still rumors in the palace at first, but after many people were executed, no one dared to mention it. Since then, his life had fallen to the bottom and lost all meaning. You can tell me what you want. I'll help you. At that time, the original owner's heart was as clear as a mirror. If she wanted to help someone, she would help them without asking for the reason. If she had to say the reason, it was probably love at first sight. She felt that Rong Mo was handsome and his voice was pleasant to the ears. She didn't want to see his sad eyes and wanted to protect him. Then, I want the throne of Yu country. All right, I'll help you. Rong Mo thought that the original owner was just casually saying it, but he didn't expect that she could really help him. As a divinator, she had enough ability to help Rong Mo ascend the throne. Even though Rong Ying didn't want to pass the throne to him before he died, it couldn't stop the original owner's ability. The day he ascended the throne, Rong Mo brought her to the palace and told her, "You can't tell anyone that you're a divinator or it will bring you danger." Rong Mo loved the original owner. Even though he took in many concubines, the original owner, the person he loved the most. It was just that this love was always built on the foundation of his throne. As the weakest of the three countries, Yu country was always in the midst of storm. Yu country was Yu and Yu. Why were they two generals with the same surname name? Because they were father and father. Because Yu's Yu, Yu. Ying Yunfei entered the palace a month after Rong Mo ascended to the throne. She was adorable, playful, and innocent. Rong Mo was initially against taking in such a concubine, but because of Yu's personality, he felt that it was all right. But even though he took Yu as his concubine, he never stayed overnight in her palace. He liked to go to the original owner's palace and would visit her even when he was busy. At that time, the original owner felt that she was still blessed because even though Rong Mo had many concubines, she was still the one he treasured the most. End of chapter. Chapter 3277. However, the good times didn't last long. Because Ing Yunfei wasn't able to obtain Rong Mo's love, she started a scheme against the previous host. Adding on the two great generals' achievements on the battlefield, Rong Mo had no choice but to start pampering Ing Yunfei. But this was extremely unfair to the previous host. She wanted to be in love with a couple, not 100 flowers competing for beauty and concubines competing for favor. Once there was a barrier between people, they would start to quarrel. The first time the previous host quarreled with Rong Mo was on the day of Ing Yunfei's birthday banquet. Ing Yunfei wanted to poison the previous host to death, but she never thought that the previous host would be completely fine after drinking that cup of wine. Ing Yunfei was clearly very shocked. Seeing the previous host's expression, she knew that the matter had been exposed, but the other party wasn't poisoned to death. She couldn't figure it out, but in order to prevent the previous host from telling Rong Mo about this, she decided to act first. Using the child in her womb, that wasn't even 3 months old, as a bet to frame the previous host. The plan was very thorough. The previous host was a divinator from the ancient hibiscus sect who didn't understand the schemes of the palace, so she naturally couldn't escape Ing Yunfei's scheme. Rong Mo's eyes were filled with doubt, but with the evidence, he still placed the previous host under house arrest in the palace and severely reprimanded her. This one thought that you were a kind person, but I never thought that you would do such a malicious thing. I didn't. I never did it. Ing Yunfei clutched her chest, her face as pale as paper. She pointed at her and complained, "Now that you've been caught red-handed, you still want to deny it. Give me back my child. Give me back my child. It's still my and His Majesty's child. I don't know who poisoned you. Wasn't me. But the person who poisoned me before was definitely you." Ha ha. Ing Yunfei laughed. "I poisoned you? Then may I ask why you're sitting here unharmed?" At that moment, the previous host had no way to explain herself. Her gaze landed firmly on Rong Mo. Her eyes were filled with pain, anxiety, and despair. Everyone in the world could be oblivious to why she wasn't poisoned, but Rong Mo couldn't, because he knew everything. She was a divinator. He had blood that could detoxify hundreds of poisons, and a body that could heal wounds by itself. Therefore, when Ing Yunfei poisoned her, she could feel the blood in her body boiling, and she could also feel the discomfort of suffocation. However, these feelings would soon fade away until they completely disappeared. She had told Rong Mo about this before. At that time, Rong Mo had only sighed softly and said, "Right now, Concubine Yun's father and brother are killing enemies for me on the battlefield. I know you feel wronged, but since there's nothing else, just bear with it for now." This was the first time the original owner felt his heart thump. It was especially painful. That's right, because she was a Heaven's Fate master, because she could cure herself after being poisoned. She had to endure any grievances. Rong Mo, do you know? If she didn't have such blood, she would have died that day. Although life in the cold palace was bleak, it was still considered comfortable. The imperial court pressured Rong Mo, but he suppressed it all. He knew that the original owner had been wronged, but for the sake of his empire, he had no choice but to wrong her. Ever since the original owner entered the cold palace, Ing Yunfei had become Rong Mo's most favored woman. He seemed to have changed a bit. Before, he would feel guilty towards the original owner when he came into contact with other women. But when he had more women by his side, this guilt became less obvious. But he was clear that the person he loved the most in his heart was still the original owner. Pooh, where's the little cutie who instantly killed me? Ding! Congratulations to little fairy Yin Ming and Jiang Bei for becoming an elder. Thank the little cutie for the gift alone, Mao Mao. In a chapter. Chapter 3278. So even though the previous host was in the cold palace, he did not mistreat her. It was just that accidents always came too quickly, catching people off guard. The two generals of the Ying family defeated the invading troops of the Jade Country and returned victorious. Rong Mo promoted them, and everyone in court suggested that Ying Yunfei should be the empress. There was a moment of hesitation in his heart, but it was only for a moment. In the next second, he resolutely nodded and agreed. At that time, it was already the previous host's third month in the Cold Palace. Other than her, there was another woman in the Cold Palace that Rong Mo had never seen before. She said that her name was Li Xian and that she was the daughter of the Minister of War. Originally, she had entered the palace with the same batch of beauties to serve the king of Yu. However, because she looked similar to Ying Yunfei, she was framed by her and moved to the Cold Palace. Li Xian's family was also implicated because of this, and they were no longer officials in court. She said, "Your Highness Qing Fei, I feel that the king loves you because after you came to the Cold Palace, there were more charcoal fires than before." The previous host understood that in Rong Mo's heart, she was different from others. But now, she could no longer understand his heart. Power, status, beauties, there were too many things that confused his eyes and heart. The current Rong Mo was no longer the Rong Mo she first saw at the cliff of Qingdang Temple. His eyes had become deep and unfathomable. The true change in the previous host's fate was because of Li Xian's death. Even though she was in the Cold Palace, Ying Yunfei still saw her as a thorn in her side. Because the original owner wasn't poisoned last time, Ying Yunfei was puzzled, so this time she changed the poison in the food sent to the Cold Palace. The previous host managed to neutralize the poison in her body, but Li Xian died. If it wasn't for her, Li Xian would not have died. That was the first time she had the urge to kill Ying Yunfei, and she did it. When Rong Mo found out, he had already sent people to stop her. The embroidered uniform guard stood in front of her, and the blade cut into her skin, but she still gave Ying Yunfei the final blow. Fresh blood dripped down, mixing with her and Ying Yunfei's blood. When Rong Mo arrived, the previous host was already under the control of the embroidered uniform guards. Her hands were bound by iron chains, and the wounds on her body were slowly healing, but they were not as painful as her heart. Reporting to King Yu, the leader of the imperial bodyguards said, "We have already captured the culprit." Rong Mo looked at her and frowned slightly, but his eyes were cold. After a long while, he slowly nodded and said, "Take her to the Supreme Court first and deal with her later." The next day, all the ministers in the court urged that the original owner be put to death by 1,000 cuts. After all, she had killed the current empress. This was a great crime that could implicate 9 generations of the family. Rong Mo pushed her again and again, thinking of a way to save her life. However, the 2 generals of the Ying clan threatened him with a ceasefire, so he had no choice but to agree to the execution of the original owner. On the night of their parting, he personally went to the Supreme Court to find a substitute to let her go. He said, go far away, and don't come back." Rong Mo knew that even if he executed her, the 2 generals of the Ying clan wouldn't let him off. He had heard about the war at the border in the past few days. In the end, he had still taken this step. Ying Yunfei could not die. If she died, the country would be destroyed. The world was divided into 3, and Yu country was the weakest country. Northern Yang country was strong and didn't want to fight with them, but Jade country was different. Jade country suppression over the years had caused Yu country's military strength to decline day by day. Now, the Ying clan was planning to betray the country because of Ying Yunfei's death. Although Ying Pingyuan and his son did these things in secret, there was no such thing as a secret in this world. It wasn't difficult to know their every move. This book came from Chapter 3279. In other words, the father and son of the Ying family planned to use their 300,000 troops to defect to Jade Nation. After Rong Mo told the previous owner of the body, her heart softened. She felt that she didn't understand him in certain aspects. This was the empire that he had spent so much effort to obtain, but he lost it because of her. That day at the Supreme Court, the stars outside the window were bright and the scenery was beautiful. She looked at him and said, "Do you still remember? I said that I can help you. It's too late. Leave quickly and don't look back." Rong Mo looked at her and said, I can't protect my empire, but I can protect you. Have you forgotten? I'm a divinator. For divinators, it means going against the heavens and changing one's fate. The previous owner's so-called going against the heavens and changing one's fate was going back in time. As long as she returned to the time before Ing Yunfei's death, the two generals of the Ing family wouldn't betray her. If they didn't, even if Rong Mo's empire was destroyed, he wouldn't lose it so quickly. However, there was a price to pay. Not only would she lose all her abilities as a divinator, she would also have to feel the biting cold day and night. But for Rong Mo, she felt that it was worth it. That night, the previous owner changed her fate and returned to the time before Ing Yunfei's death. For Rong Mo, she didn't take revenge for Li Xian and didn't kill Ing Yunfei. But even if she didn't kill Ing Yunfei, it didn't mean that Ing Yunfei wouldn't do anything to her. Although the two generals of Yu country were brave and had won many battles, Jade Nation's army was much stronger. After years of fighting, Yu country's army was already exhausted. Just as things were about to get worse, there was a sudden turn of events. Ing Pingyuan found out that the previous owner was the divinator of the ancient forbidden sect. There were two plans. If the divinator was given a Jade Nation, it should be able to bring peace between the two countries. But Jade King was ambitious and might lead his troops to invade again after a period of peace. This was just a stalling tactic. The other plan was to give the divinator to Northern Liang. It was said that Northern Liang had never lost since its establishment. Jade Nation's first target was Northern Liang, but after repeated failures, they knew that they couldn't win and never invaded Northern Liang's territory. Northern Liang had never invaded any other country. Even when Yu country was in decline, they had never attacked it. It was said that the king of Northern Liang was an old man over 50 years old. He liked peace and did not like war. Because he had the ability to foresee the future, he had a deep understanding of the metaphysics of life. If he gave the destiny master of the ancient forbidden sect to her, he might be able to bring eternal peace to Yu country. However, this was just Yu country's wishful thinking. Northern Liang might not need a heaven's fate master. After Rong Mo found out about this, he went to discuss it with the original owner. On the surface, it was a discussion, but it was actually a choice. I will bring you back. No matter which country you go to, it will only be temporary. I will definitely bring you back. When Rong Mo said this, he looked at her intently, with deep affection in his eyes. It was said that the king of Jade Nation was extremely handsome, and even women would feel ashamed when they saw him. His beauty belonged to the category of extraordinary beauty. Rong Mo was worried that there might be unforeseen circumstances after sending the original owner to Jade Country. Therefore, he hoped that the original owner would choose Northern Liang. After all, the king of Northern Liang was an old man with a white beard who was over 50 years old. Back then, the original owner chose Jade Nation. Since you will come to fetch me, I will wait for you in a country closer to you. Rong Mo was stunned for a while before saying, "All right, I will definitely come back to fetch you." This book came from Chapter 3280. But the original owner had waited for 3 whole years for this sentence to come. Until the moment of her death, Rong Mo never came. The Jade King told her that as long as she had a way to break the Northern Liang King's prophecy technique, he would promise her endless wealth and riches. But the previous host, who had lost her divinator abilities, couldn't do it. Although the Jade King didn't punish her, the concubines in the palace didn't know her identity. They only knew that after she came to Jade Country, the Jade King often summoned her. No matter where a woman was, they were all jealous. The previous host's fate might not have been that quick, but after 3 years of torture, she was only left with a skeleton. In the end, on an extremely cold winter day, she was pushed into a pond by a group of concubines wearing bright red clothes and drowned. Actually, she might have been able to live, but she wanted to die. Although she was in Jade Country, she was always thinking about Yu Country. For example, Rong Mo had an empress, a crown prince, who he doted on, and the number of concubines increased year by year. Did he forget his promise to her? He said that he would definitely come and fetch her. Could it be that because Jade Country kept their promise and didn't attack Yu Country, He was content with the status quo and was afraid that her return would cause his country to fall. The previous host didn't know. She only knew that the cold water seeped into her skin layer by layer, and her consciousness gradually blurred. There was only one sentence that kept appearing in her mind. I will bring you back. No matter which country you go to, it will only be temporary. I will definitely bring you back. At this moment, there was a faint heartache, but she no longer felt that it was a form of torture. Instead, she felt that it was a form of release. It was finally over. Everything was finally coming to an end. Perhaps at the end of her life, she finally understood that that man wasn't worth her effort. It wasn't worth it to lose her life for him. But she couldn't go against the heavens and change her fate. Everything couldn't be redone. Regret, endless regret, accompanied the cold water as it eroded her. This obsession was brought to the bronze mirror in the chaos space. Hence the appearance of the host, Luo Qingchen. Hosts can start choosing after sorting out all your memories. He, ha ha. Luo Qingchen gave the system a fake smile. The reason was very simple. It was because the time she came back wasn't before she met Rong Mo, and it wasn't before she changed her fate. Instead, it was the dark and gloomy prison of the Supreme Court, waiting for the fate of being at the mercy of others. At this moment, the three members of the Ying clan already knew of her identity as a divinator. They requested to send her to either Jade Nation or Northern Liang in exchange for the safety of your nation. The timing was bad because she wouldn't be able to personally take revenge in a short period of time. At the very least, this was a turning point. If he wanted to change his fate, it would be even more difficult. Host, please be mentally prepared. After the 50th plane, any difficulty will increase. Oh, you mean to say that in the future, if you send me back to the original owner, wouldn't it be fine the day before I jump into the lake? It saves time, worries, and effort. I could just jump down and everything will be over. Hot temper host. Carrot_Carrot_Carrot. But the system was getting more and more mischievous lately, and it even felt wronged. Luo Qingchen wanted to retort, but in the next second, she heard familiar footsteps heading towards her prison cell. She wasn't familiar with the footsteps, but the body was. It was Rong Mo's footsteps this book came from. Chapter 3281. Hearing those footsteps, Luo Qingchen felt an unprecedented sadness in her heart. Once upon a time, regardless of whether she was favored or not, she would always look forward to hearing those footsteps. As the wife of an emperor, she would have to share a man with many other women. But the previous owner knew that with her personality, no matter how open-minded she appeared on the surface, she would never be willing. Rong Mo walked in front of her and looked at her with his deep eyes. Are you all right? In the next second, Luo Qingchen's lips curled into a faint smile. Thanks to you, not bad. Rong Mo was stunned for a moment, and a complicated look flashed across his eyes. At this moment, he had a strange feeling that the woman in front of him had changed. It wasn't that she had never been this cold before. Once upon a time, when he had placed her in the cold palace, she had also been this cold to him. But it was different. At that time, her eyes were filled with endless affection. But now, he could only see indifference in her eyes. I have let you down. Rong Mo narrowed his eyes. Don't worry. No matter where you go, I choose Northern Liang. Before Rong Mo could finish saying the words that the previous host was obsessed with, Luo Qingchen cut him off. Only heaven knew how laughable that sentence was. It was so laughable that she didn't even want to listen to it. You? Rong Mo was stunned for a moment, and a faint light flashed across his eyes. After a long while, he said, I heard that it's cold there. I'm afraid you won't be used to it. How could it be worse than being in the Supreme Court's prison? Luo Qingchen's cold eyes narrowed, and her lips curled into a faint mocking smile. I hope the king of you will grant me my wish. King of you. Rong Mo's back stiffened. She had never called him that before, and it sounded so distant at this moment. Was she really angry? But only by protecting the Yu kingdom could he protect their future. Qingchen, you have to take good care of yourself there. Rong Mo sighed softly. I know you have the ability. Luo Qingchen sneered. I don't know what ability prince he was talking about. The ability of a heaven's fate master. Rong Mo lowered his voice. Neither poison nor weapons can harm you. Wait for me to come and get you. Luo Qingxun's eyebrows slightly moved. I remember that I told the king of you that it was because he changed his fate. What do you think the price was? Based on Luo Qingxun's personality, she wouldn't have explained so much to Rong Imo. But in this kind of prison, with wounds all over her body, Rong Imo acted as though he couldn't see them. Luo Qingxun felt bad for the original owner. Right now, she didn't have any blood that could cure hundreds of poisons, nor did she have a body that could heal itself. What do you mean? Could it be? Rong Imo looked at the wound on her arm with doubt. What I mean isn't important. Luo Qingxun interrupted him for the last time. I asked the king of you to arrange for me to leave as soon as possible. Although she was unwilling to accept Ying Yunfei's intentions, it wasn't too late for a gentleman to take revenge. Luo Qingxun would definitely repay the original owner's grievances one day. All right. After a long time, Rong Imo took a deep breath and said, I'll send you away tomorrow. You have to take good care of yourself. I'll have your servant girls go with you, so they can take care of you on the way. Luo Qingxun narrowed her eyes and said resolutely, Then I'll have to thank the king of you. This book came from.